Hey everybody, Royal Alliance UK, Matt and Ash coming at ya. Before I say hello to the boys, thank you again to Jeff Hurley, who's the number one
God.
supporter of the show. Just incredible, sir. Thank you very, very much for the super sticker for $5. Appreciate you. And hey to Lions Gangster and Lost Oceans on Twitch as well. If you're in the chat, say hi. We'll say hi back. And Ash, how you doing, boys?
Doing okay. Crying inside over the loss of the man of my heart, Tyrone Mings.
I'm actually doing quite good actually. Lions won, a football team won. I'm getting suspicious.
Suspicious.
I'm not allowed nice things. I'm not allowed a full nice weekend. So it's rare and it's concerning. So I'm just kind of wondering what's going to happen. But hey, I'll take it when we can. I will absolutely do that.
It's the
So
British mentality, isn't it?
we're 2 out of 2. We've won 2 of 2. We're doing well. Lions have won 1 of 1. They're doing well. It's like, right, nothing can hurt me right now.
Brent is in the chat as well saying, good man, Jeff, I can't donate again until I start receiving my retirement deposits. Haha, darn fixed income. That's... Oh, yeah, I always yearn for retirement, and then I think, actually, maybe it's not all it's cracked up to be. But there we go. There's no pressure, Brent, to do that. Do not worry about that. Ken's in the building saying, hi, change happens, Lions proof. Lady Lion 20 is in the building as well. Jared Howard 2 saying, what's up, boys? What's up to you? We've got a great show lined up for you with a name which I'm taking absolutely no credit for whatsoever. But there we go.
No, because it's good.
Exactly. Lost Oceans said, and you both made it onto a Dan Pass podcast. What a week. How was it with Dan, boys?
I really enjoyed it. I admit it, I had some tech issues at the start because I was rushing back from what I finished work at 7, rush back, boot up my laptop. It wasn't loading Zoom, but I absolutely enjoyed it. You can see I like waffling. Me and Dan were just going off each other, going on 1,000,002 tangents. So it was perfect for me and hopefully Ant enjoyed his time yesterday.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of good fun talking with Dan. It's the first time I've ever actually spoken face to face to Dan, so which is weird given how many years we've been doing this. So it's nice to actually see, and he's not American. He's as British as they come. Still, bless him. You can just still the Brits all still in there. No matter what he says, that guy's a full on Brit at heart, and we love him. But no, it was good fun. We talked about all sorts. But yeah, I think Chris is on tomorrow as well. Chris Buffett, so he's doing well. He's getting some good guests on there.
Yeah, he's had some absolute crackers. And all three of us have been on it, so there we go. Lost Ocean says, I still think putting milk in tea is weird as hell, but whatever. And I think you'll find that the majority of Brits will find it weird if you don't put milk in tea, but it does depend on the type of tea you're putting it in. If it's English breakfast tea, it's absolutely standard. If it's Earl Grey, I think it's less so, but it's still pretty standard to have it in Earl Grey. And if it's pretty much anything else, it's a bit weird.
Yeah.
So whatever you want. But I am aware that the strength and quality of English breakfast tea in the States is not the same as here. Which is fair, because a lot less of it is drunk over there. So why would it have to be really high standard? It doesn't have to be, so...
Plus, it's more expensive over there.
Yeah, unless you can get the Twinings, but that's a bit posh for me, to be honest.
Even then, because there's the whole thing. It's because I'm on TikTok and I have American friends that are my age, so I see it. But you look at the price list of stuff of our stuff over in America, like a bottle of Iron Brew, something we take for granted, like 150, 170, depending on the shop you're going to. Try you $14, $15 in an American supermarket. I'm just like,
okay, but Iron Brew is absolute nectar. Sorry.
It is.
Look at Turnip in A Man of the People. It's too posh for me. This one. You a Yorkshire tea lad.
I love Yorkshire. Yorkshire tea is the best tea.
Going for the Yorkshire tea, God, that's surprising.
So my mum grew up on Tetley. No, she grew up on D. I don't know if you remember what D tea is, but it's an old style green brand with yellow lettering, which almost looks like PG Tips. Yeah. She then moved on to PG Tips. I went on to Tetley, and now I'm on Yorkshire.
See, I'm one of those rare Brits who I only drink tea unless I'm absolutely forced to. If I've got nothing in the house, I have tea bags in the house to be nice for guests, but it's always coffee. But unless they come in, and even when I do drink tea, I go out my way to get weird and wonderful ones. So I went through a big phase as a child as a teenager, young adult, who watched Cine Asia all the time, like all these different Asian films, the wushu films, all that sort of stuff. And I got so fascinated with it, I got one of those proper old-fashioned Chinese tea sets, with like the really little cups, so the proper, these proper like sort of big chalices for your tea and everything, and you put all the different herbs and bits in and brew it like that. I've got that set, and I actually use that more than I do for British tea. I bought that a long time ago, and it was a bit of money, but I still use it now. I do fancy tea. I don't do regular tea, so I don't have milk with mine.
That's fair. I think my favourite tea, and I don't have it very often, but I did buy an infuser with a teapot which is completely clear, but then you've got the infuser in the middle, and it looks really cool, is oolong tea. And specifically with oolong, you have to do 3 boils of the tea before it's drinkable, because the first few are so bitter it's undrinkable, but like the 3rd to the 7th brew are just really nice. Like, yes. Yeah. But I'm with you in terms of tea. I much prefer coffee. I'll have coffee like from when I wake up to about 2, and then I'll probably transition to having maybe 1 cup of tea every few days in the afternoon, but I don't have it very often.
No, I've worked nights in the past. I do 8-9 cups of coffee a day.
I'm right up there with you
for a decade. So it's like, and to be honest, tea has more caffeine in it than coffee does. So
per weight, but coffee has more weight in it, so it's still more caffeinated per cup.
Well, I'm using science to unguilt myself of how much I'm having. So
I don't know whether this reference will mean anything to you. I can do science, me. Yeah. Oh, that's a reference no one here is going to understand, but I don't care. Brent says, "What tea shall I look out for in the world food section in the store? The best?" ? I think we've mentioned all of them that are pretty good.
Yeah,
ginseng is lovely.
Ginseng is good.
I have a lot of ginseng tea.
But if you want to go for just a British cup of tea, surely like.
For a British, but I thought he said in the world section, so that's kind of a worldy thing, not a Brit thing.
But I guess in world foods, that's where you're going to get your British brand, so that's what I'm thinking.
Exactly, it's like how we have all the American candy in our.
I would throw Taifu up there as a recognisable brand of tea. Yeah. I'm not a massive fan of it, but it's good. Taifu, PG Tips, Tetley, Yorkshire, Twinings. That's about it, right?
Yeah.
Experiment has just put in the tea he drinks, which is Sweet Tangerine Positive Energy Tea by Yogi.
I mean, I can't.
That makes me think of like iced tea and stuff like that. I do love, not Lipton, screw Lipton's, but I do love, and I generally tend to brew iced tea at home. Because I love to have fresh ingredients for it and to do it like properly, because store brands are just nasty and full of sugar. But iced tea is beautiful. Iced coffee is beautiful. Make a killer mocha, I do. Nice iced mocha. I make my own chocolate sauce here and put it in.
I've come round to iced coffee big time.
Yeah.
Never used to like it.
Beautiful. But... Just make your own chocolate sauce, melt some espresso into it, and just make this thick, gooey mixture. Put it in. It's like, for a proper hot, sunny day, there's no better. I'll just make a big tub of it and just like put it in the fridge and like stick a ladle in it and just keep drinking it all day. Beautiful.
Ken says my local grocery store has Kroger branded black tea, but prefer coffee. The Bigelow Earl Grey and Perfectly Met are very good, but a bit expensive. And Jeff Hurley is waxing lyrical about the benefits of mushroom tea. I'm sure it's good, Jeff. Right. Should we get the show on the road? Here we go.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another edition of the Royal Alliance UK podcast, episode 209, Benny the Snelephant. My name's Matthew Turner, alongside Anthony Fitzpatrick and Ashley Soden. How are you doing, boys?
Doing good, good.
Doing good, thank you. Yeah, good weekend, can't complain. It's always good. It's technically a Victory Monday, so, first of many this season, so nothing to complain about.
And hopefully the first of many Victory Fridays as well. we've got a few Thursday games to look forward to, so I hope to keep that up as well. Of course, we are going to be talking about preseason game 1 at home against the Giants. We're going to be breaking down the joint practices sessions as well. We're going to be reviewing the news, and we'll be talking about all of the press conferences as we go. Hope you've had a great weekend, and we're going to get going as we always do, with a bit of preamble letting you know what we're up to. Discord channel, of course, is the main place to be to hang out with us all the way through the season, and there's about 100 other people in there now, some really great characters in there. So if you want to join a uplifting and great community, Lions fans, I'll pop the Discord link in the live chat now. Come say hi. We'd love to see you there. College Football Podcast is going strong, previewing the college season as we come up to the start. And you just did the pack, I believe. No?
No, we're on the American right
American,
now.
my bad.
We talked about the demise of the pack
Yes.
last week, but the conference previews of the American, we did the first half. Second half is going to be tomorrow, I think, because I'm working Wednesday and Friday, Thursday. I just need to sort it with Ryan. So
There we go.
yeah, the Americans next week. Then we're going to have the MAC one, and then the entire G5 storm. We're going to do that with James, hopefully as usual, and then it's time to talk about our predictions for the season, and the season begins. So we're nearly there. It's only about a week and a half till college football starts now. So
That's coming up quick.
we're very close.
Very, very close. All right. Please don't forget to like the show and sub to the podcast and give us a rating and a review. You know how much it helps out the small guys like us. Every single one counts. So we thank you in advance, just like Brent, who's given us a review on our feedback form that we've got in the description down below. Now, it's not public, but it is just your way of telling us what you'd like us to improve or just to give us a bit of a G up. And he said, this has become my favourite channel on YouTube. These lads do their research, are insightful and hilarious at times. Taking exception to the at times, but you know. And he said, if you think Brits don't know American football, then you haven't watched the quality videos these gentlemen put out week after week. Great job, guys. Keep it up. Appreciate you, Brent. It means a lot to us to read that on my afternoon before prepping this, so thank you for that. Of course, we are a member of Lions Nation Unite. They've launched their Facebook group, and you've got lots of great content creators there making stuff on behalf of them. It's Home and Moore's project to bring the best in Lions content creators together, so go and join the Facebook group now, Lions Nation Unite. We're also Twitch affiliates and YouTube monetized, and there's a tip jar down below. If you enjoy what you see, what you listen to, then don't forget to show us some love. Let's get on with the news. And we've got a lot of news to get through, boys. So let's hit the entirety of the roster news to begin with. We've signed the tackle Bobby Hart, running back Divine Ozigbo, quarterback Teddy Bridgewater on a 1 year up to $5 million deal with $2.5 million guaranteed. The running back Benny Snell, for which the episode is named. Cornerback Colby Richardson and centre Alex Millett also joined today. Outgoing, we waived the long slapper Jake McQuaid shortly after we spoke 7 days ago. So it seems like a long time ago, but it is since we last spoke. We also have let go the wide receiver Avery Davis, although he was re-signed today. Was he?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right, I missed that. The guard Logan Stenberg, who has since been claimed by the Chicago Bears. I'm sure he will do great things for us there. The cornerback Tay Hayes has been claimed by Baltimore. We've also let go of the center Ross Pierschbaker with an injury settlement after he got injured in the preseason game. And the wide receiver Trey Quinn with an injury. We also have had Justin Jackson, the running back, go into retirement, and we wish him well. We've also re-signed to a 2-year extension worth up to $14 million with $8.1 million guaranteed, the wide receiver and all-pro punt returner Khalif Raymond. And just to let you know as well that today there has been a bug going around camp affecting them this weekend and today. So Gibbs, Sutton and Breeze at least have been affected and we did not train today. Hutchinson's got a bum ankle but is not expected to be serious. And also Mosley, the prize new cornerback, is expected to be out a while. So we'll see what happens with that, boys. One other piece of news, I'll discuss that right at the end. But lots of incomings and outgoings, boys. And I want to start by talking about Logan, just as someone that we've kind of been hanging on to for a while. And it feels like a real shame that we've kind of waited for him to almost break out into that lineup, and he's threatened every now and again, but unfortunately this is the end of the road for him here.
He's such a bastard coming to me first with this.
You're
Yes.
the president of his fan club.
Yes, I am the president of his fan club, and you know what? I will still maintain to this day I am disappointed. I'm disappointed because I still believe that Logan is capable of doing good things in this league. We know that he can fit in this offensive line with the run game. That's not a problem. It's always been sort of the pass pro aspect of it that he's just never really been able to pick up. And when you're going into year 4 now, if you're still lacking on some of the fundamental techniques, if you're still struggling, then unfortunately it's going to be a bit of an uphill struggle from there onwards. So it's sad because I can see a player in there, but eventually you have to say enough is enough with some guys, and you've just got to move on. And Logan's not on his own on the offensive line where that sort of line needs to be taken. And I imagine we will see a lot of movement on that line before this is all said and done. But I hope he does well with the Bears. I think he'll fit better there because they run the ball a lot. Fields is mobile. You saw them against the Titans the other day. They were blocking a lot in the run game. That'll suit him more. And as much as I hate the Bears, like physically hate the Bears, I do hope he goes and does well there because I still like Logan and I wish him all the best. So, but for us, it's time to change because we need better depth here. And we need more reliable depth as well. So we've just got to start letting some of these guys go now, and we've got to start trying to get new guys in, letting the rookies, give them a chance, and then we'll see where we go with it. So best of luck to you, Logan. But yeah, the time was now for him.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. As we say, we put a lot into him. Remember, he was drafted above Jonah. If I remember right, I think he was a 3rd round pick. Jonah was a 4th round pick.
Jonah was a 3rd.
Jonah was a 3rd as well.
Logan
were
was
they in the same draft class?
Yep.
No.
Yeah, they were.
Were they?
I don't think they were. Were they?
Yep.
Jonah was a higher draft pick. Jonah was a round 3 pick. Logan was a 4th or a 5th.
Gonna have to check this out.
Yep. Jonah was pick 75. Logan was 121. So
okay,
both in the 2020.
50,
because they both were in the Senior Bowl together. That's why we picked both.
Right, that makes sense. There we go. Your knowledge, your memory is so much better than mine. I should not doubt.
I mean, I've got the order mixed up. I thought that Logan was higher. I guess it was just regarding high because you say Jonah obviously transferred to Ohio State that year before. Logan had always played at Kentucky. But as we say, as Anne put it pretty fairly, to be honest, run game, brilliant. Needs to work on that pass pro, and he just never got there. Like, the guy got 2-0 pass blocking grades from PFF last year. It's just not going to cut it with how much we want to rely on the pass. But as Anne also says, Bears are great at running the ball. That's pretty much all they can do, it seems. I know, obviously, they're 2 long touchdowns against the Titans at the weekend, but so there's a look at how many air yards are on those passes and come back to me, I guess. Half joking, because I am totally not scared that DJ Moore could actually get some encounter fields. But, hopefully Logan does well at the Bears, but obviously not too well that the Bears suddenly break out and become an offensive juggernaut. Just does well enough that he keeps on their roster, but nothing too special, like that sort of nice middle ground. That's what we're hoping for.
The Titans suck balls. There's no way we'll struggle against. There's no way we'll struggle against that screen pass as much as they did. Especially not with all the players we've got in this team now. They don't take no fools on screen passes.
Exactly.
They don't take prisoners. It's execution. No prisoners here.
Oh yeah. Well, we all saw what Brian Branch does to screen passes.
That was absolutely fantastic. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Ash, I'll come back to you to talk about these 2 signings and re-signings. Bridgewater on that 1 year, $5 million, 2.5 guaranteed, and Raymond the 2-year extension, 14 with 8.1 guaranteed. What do you make of them?
Bridgewater, I thought he was going to get more. I remember he got 7.5, all fully guaranteed from the Miami Dolphins last year, something like that. So to get him on 1.5 million, 2.5 guaranteed, and I think it's come out since that from over the cap that actually $500,000 is a void year next year, so he actually spreads the cap out even more. That's such a good contract for someone who, honestly, I would have as a top 32 quarterback in this league. He should be starting somewhere. He's better than some of the guys other teams are going to be trotting out this season. So to get him backing up Goff, after what we saw, unfortunately, from Sudfeld, we'll come on to that later, the signing just makes so much sense now. And touch wood, nothing ever happens to Goff. But if something did, we don't have to fully panic because Bridgewater can sort of stabilise us and keep us churning along and hopefully pushing towards the playoffs and beyond. And then for Khalif, as we discussed it on Friday, such a good re-signing. I know we're going to come on to Dan's comments about it later, but this guy who was cut by the Titans was told, oh yeah, you've got the speed, you're good at punt return, just don't have enough to be a wide receiver. And he came in, he was basically our wide receiver one for the first half of the first year of this regime, where Tyrell Williams had that unfortunate concussion in week one. Rashad Perriman never made it to the initial 53, and Amon Ra just wasn't up to speed yet. Leaf was just going out there week after week with all the attention and still performing. Great in punt return. As a wide receiver, is arguably wide receiver 3 for us. So for him to get this sort of go from being a vet minimum guy to having a medium-sized contract with some performance-based bonuses that came up for him, to now being paid $7 million a year AAV, just such a good signing for us. But I do take exception to, as you referred to in earlier, the way it was reported as if he's just a punt returner when he's just so much more for us. And I'm so happy he's going to be sticking around a lot longer.
And what do you make of it?
Teddy, yeah, no, it's good. It's what we needed. There were a few obvious deficiencies on this team, apart from quarterback too, and we needed to make a splash there because this season is absolutely critical to the franchise. We've got to win the NFC North this year, and we don't want to get to week 3, lost a couple of games, Goff goes injured, and then throw away the whole season. We just simply cannot afford that. So you've got to put someone in there who can win your games, and you have to pay him like you make him feel he's worth it as well. You can't just lowball him and say, well, this. It's like, give him a decent amount of money, give him incentives in case he does have to come in and play, and he can make himself a bit more. It's good for him, and it's good for us. So I like the value, and it's just 1 year. It's $500,000 next year. So it's inoffensive to the future. It's for the now without compromising the future. And those sort of moves I'll always applaud. Brad Holmes is the best at those. Getting in those guys for 1 year deals, trying them out, filling a need on this team, but then to the point where you can go and sort it out next year if it doesn't work. So it's a good contract. Khalif's is a good contract as well. We need reliable depth in the wide receiver room right now, especially with all the lower depth guys getting injured and the higher depth guys suspended. So, you need those solid, reliable guys in the middle who can do more than one task for you there. And Khalif does. He does a lot for this team, and, we're going to need him these first 6 weeks. So to get the deal done now, that gives him a level of confidence going into the season. He's secure. He's got a 2-year deal. He can go out there, play without pressure, and just be the best guy he can. And if he is, then he'll be huge on this team, won't he? And we'll probably end up calling the contract a steal. So a couple of smart bits of business there by Brad.
Yeah, thanks very quickly to T-Bone7698 on Twitch, who's gifted a tier 1 sub to Chromon. Much appreciated, T-Bone. That's huge for us, so thank you. Yeah, I love both bits of business. When we thought that Teddy was incoming, I thought it would be a waste of money, frankly. And I still, in my heart of hearts, kind of think that if Goff goes down for more than 2 games, I still think we're in a bad place. Teddy didn't have a good year last year, and I'm not sure that was a blip. But for the, let me get it right, 46th highest contracts at quarterback out of 116 per over the cap, you can't turn that down. That's exceptional value for someone who might be able to steady the ship over a couple of games. If Goff goes down for a month, he gives you a better shot than Nate Sudfeld does, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But for Khalif, and I don't know whether I said this, I think I said this on stream on Friday for the preseason game, but Khalif Raymond is one of the most underrated players in the NFL. You saw how much separation he was managed to get on not insignificant reps on offense last year. He played a reasonable amount, not a huge amount, but a reasonable amount on offense. And he was getting a ridiculous amount of separation on routes because the defense just doesn't really take notice of him. And he's so much quicker than people give him credit for, especially he's fast and quick. you know, so he's getting these breakaway speeds, especially on play action stuff where he throws in a double moves. He's basically unguardable. So getting him in there, I think he would be like a low-end wide receiver 2 for the majority of NFL teams. And he's coming in here, and I know that Ash said he's a wide receiver 3, but frankly, when JMO comes back, he's a wide receiver 4 for us. But he's a low-end wide receiver 2 in terms of quality. So to get him at $7 million a year, and it's just amazing for him too. He got a 2-year, $6 million deal previously. That's what he's currently playing out. He's $4 million against the cap this year. I'm presuming with the $8 million guaranteed, he'll be $4 million against the cap in this year coming up. Over the cap doesn't have the fresh contract numbers yet. Spot Track might have them, I'm not sure. But for him to parlay that into the same cap number he has this year with upside to do better, and I've got no doubt he's going to do it. It's amazing that in relief, when JMO goes down, we can call upon someone of his caliber, and he just wants to be here, and isn't that so damn refreshing? So congrats to him, absolutely love it. Lots of other moves, boys. Any other thoughts on anyone coming in? I know that Ozigbo and Snell both had reasonable carries in the preseason game, but without betraying too much of that earlier, some of the waivers that we've let go, or Hart coming in, or any thoughts from any of that group?
Just a lot of kind of camp bodies coming in and out at the minute, isn't it? There's not really a great deal there. You know, a few people taking knocks, so you immediately get new guys in, see what they've got with them. You're kind of at the point now where if someone gets injured and they're not going to feature much more, it's like, well, waste of a spot. We need another guy. We need 92 guys on the roster, 90 guys on the roster who can compete now. So, yeah, there'll be loads of these, especially with no roster cut downs this year until obviously the last one. Before, you were sort of handicapped as to how much you could do. Now you can keep the full 90 for the entire preseason. I think you're going to find teams are a lot more liberal in making tons of these little minor transactions here and there with injured guys and that. So there's nothing really big in there. Just you know, surprising the long snapper left so early, but you know, it's that seems to have been sewn up nice and early. So yeah, no worries there. But yeah, I just expect to see a ton more of these moves before time's done.
Yeah, same pretty much. Like, well, proof of that is the fact that obviously everyone was like surprised it came out when you read that Avery Davis was re-signed today. It's just one of them where it's just recycling part of the roster guys. So Trey Quinn, fortunately, seemingly gets injured in preseason game. So we quickly call up Avery Davis, who obviously we released earlier last week, and was like, oh yeah, spot's open back up for you. Do you want to come back? He's probably, as we say, like he's in the bottom 10, 15 on the roster. He's here trying to fight to make a spot in a very hard room because, as we'll get on to later, some wide receivers who, honestly, even I had written, like we would all written off for, oh yeah, they're bottom of the roster guys, really stepped up and put their name out there to maybe fight for that sort of wide receiver 5-6 role. So Davis might not make it. Probably the same with whichever one we re-signed outside of, obviously signed except for Teddy, but that's just how it is. It's going to be fun to see these battles happen because, as they keep saying, they said it last year with the linebacker room, and this year it seems to seemingly happening with the safety room, the wide receiver room, and the lower level running back room. Competition breeds excellence. So let's see what excellence comes out of this.
The final bit of news to report is, you might have seen it if you watched the preseason game, but the Lions are inducting former Lions offensive tackle, 10-year vet of the Lions and current colour commentator Lomas Brown into the pride of the Lions. And they actually made him available for the press conference after the game. And I've got some quotes from him here. There wasn't much from him, but he did say, well, he walked into applause from the media guys. And I don't think I've ever seen the media guys clapping someone to the podium before. So that was refreshing. And he said, "Don't make me blush, please," which was just a beautiful moment. He said, "I was speechless. It's an honour to go up there with some of the greats of the game. I really appreciate it and I'm going to cherish it." He said about Detroit, "This is home for me. It has been since I retired. Now when I walk into the stadium, I can look up and see my name up there amongst the rest of the legends." And he said he was shocked to see his family. Everyone was in on it but me. He said, "I should have seen it coming. They let me valet park today. They never let me do that," which was just so funny. Boys, did you see the Rod Wood kind of surprising him in the box and then the dedication video? Because it was something very heartfelt and heartwarming.
Yeah. Like, he deserves it, doesn't he, Lomas? He's been such a star for this side through some very, very murky times, like most of them have, and he deserves no more than this. I just love how they come up with all these like nice ways to do it. Like remember with Spielman, they put it on the teleprompter when he was doing his speech.
Yeah, that was so great.
Yeah, that's so good.
And then now they've sort of surprised Lomas while he's colour commentating and stuff like that. It's little things like that. Just finding your own personalised way to send them in and show that you appreciate them. And, you know, sort of the newfound confidence around here is all due to the fact that the team and its veteran stars are all as one now. And now it's like you're inducting him in there. He's still very much part of this team, cares about it. You know, just sort of gives off the happy vibes that you really want. And like I say, he's earned it. He was a fantastic player and absolutely worthy of going in.
Yeah, ditto what answer. I can't put it any better.
All right, let's crack on then with the game review, and then we're going to talk about training camp, and then we're going to go into the press conferences. And just to say this at this point, if you guys have any questions in the live chat, as always, don't forget to @Roar the Lions UK in the respective chats, because it helps me see the questions so that I can wheel back to them when we get there. For the game itself, finished 21-16 to the Lions. At halftime, it was 13-3 to the Giants. So the Lions go on an 18-3 run in the second half. And boys, it started off a bit ropey with the Lions turning the ball over from a Nate Sudfeld interception. He was being hit from behind after a really bad rep by Matt Nelson at left tackle. So it left Sudfeld basically in no man's land, but he still threw the pick. And then on the second series, the Lions on their own 31-yard line decided to go for it on fourth down and fail after a throw to Sam Laporta was actually on target, and despite tight coverage, it's the ball we should really be dragging in. We took chances because we knew the result didn't matter. But to give the Giants 2 offensive possessions within the 30 in the first 5 minutes didn't feel like a good start.
You could tell the difference between the two units. Obviously, the offense is quite rounded out now. So many of the starters weren't in there because they were already decided. And that showed on the field because, like you said, the offense was clunky and disorganized as anything that I've ever seen out there. Like you said, that first play alone, Nelson gets absolutely bodied. Sudfeld throws it in double coverage. It's just a bad play from the pair of them and just sets the tone off. And then, like you say, on the second play, you know, we nearly get Jahmyr Gibbs seriously injured. I don't know what the hell happened there. I went back and watched it, but you had Brock Wright who kind of pulled across for a run block and left one guy, just literally his guy stood across him free to go make the tackle. And then on the other side, the left tackle, Nelson and whoever was out there, the receiver, just kind of ran past the blocker from there. They had 2 guys free to go and absolutely banjacks Jahmyr Gibbs. And you're like, that's a star investment right there. And it just looked disorganized. It looked like they had no idea what they were doing. The play was just absolutely busted. And then on the snap after that, Sudfeld gets hit by a free blitzer who's not picked up. The play after that, the Laporta drop, Nelson gets bodied again, and Sudfeld gets hit massively after that throw. I know it was still his fault, the throw, but it's like 2 times in 4 plays, Nelson gets bodied. And it ends up costing Sudfeld with a big hit. And it's just like, it was really, really bad. They looked like they didn't know what they were doing. They had the jips because most of them are backups and they've just not played a lot. Then you look on the other side of the ball, the defense, you know, a lot of them guys have seen serious starter reps on there. You've got Rodrigo in, you've got Barnes in, you've got guys on the D-line who are in there. You know, and obviously they're playing because the unit's not been as good. There's a lot more rookies in there. They need some more game time. And, you know, the very first play after Sudfeld throws that pick, and we're in really bad field position, the first play Barnes comes up, makes a big stop on the running back. It's something we've not seen from him, but he was very patient, hits the gap, hits the running back, stops him there. Next play, Bugs, hand up, pass block, you know, bats the pass down. And then the third play, coverage really good from the secondary. The D-line is hustling like it was all game, runs them out of play. And it's like every aspect of that defense was working and playing hard and kept them to the field goal. And then on the second set of reps for the defense, they're in they got 2 starts in our half of the field. They're defending 2 short fields. And then on the second grab, you've got Branch with that huge off hit that he lays down that everyone's talking about, setting the tempo. Then the D-line draws a holding call because the offensive line can't deal with them. They're putting that much pressure on. Then you get Kamish making a tackle for loss on a screen because he doesn't bite on a fake. The intensity's there. And then even Will Harris comes in. He gets stiff-armed and then comes back, makes a tackle, field goal again. And the defense is it was all beans. It was all juice. It was so different in approach there because the defense, like I say, that's a lot of them are going to be starters and they're going to be playing, and you can see that. And the offense, they were not. So as bad as the offense was, I was really impressed with how the defense started and played most of that game. They were really damn good. But yeah, the offense was trash.
Yeah. So to sort of, I hate to go against you guys and to be like actually guy, but having watched back the LaPorta drop, I'm going to put inverted commas in that, and I have got a screenshot like I put in the Discord. It was punched out. He did catch it, and then sort of the back end, you can see, I'm going to hold up the screenshot. You can see, you can see the ball being punched out by the Giants defender. So it actually wasn't a drop. It was a very good pass breakup by the Giants defender. So not to ride on it, because again, obviously, because when I was searching Twitter to see if I could find the picture, sort of bring it up. Supposedly there was people calling into Detroit radio today, already comparing him to a certain Eric Ebron over one preseason game.
Well,
one.
That's 97.1. They're not real people. Let's just those people back there are not real. That's what it is with them.
Great cultural reference there, Ant. So I applaud it. But yeah, but you have it 100% right. Like me and Matt was sitting here, and it was just offense could not get much going, but the defense just played so well. Like I remember that after that second time where we forced them to a field goal, I did turn around and say, I'm not saying the defense is going to be better than the offense, but the chance of that happening is a lot more than we thought. Because oh my God, did they ball? As you say, that Branch hit, which was the hit that reverberated around the world for a bit. Beautiful play. Kamish doing what he did. Beautiful play. That off, there were some bad points. I know that the person who I keep harping on about and defending, Will Harris, did have a really bad game overall. Like he was the worst rated by PFF. But he said even he made good plays.
Was he?
Yes.
I didn't even know that. And I'm the most critical one of him there.
34.6. He was he was like the worst rated guy.
33.
I didn't even think he had. I'm his biggest critic, and I didn't even think he had a bad game. I thought we were all right.
Oh no, Harris was pretty shocking. And you know that I'm a Will Harris defender, but the first play he committed,
I think I've just numbed myself. I'm just like, right, I'll let people with a more nuanced view talk about him because I'm probably gone over the boundary a bit.
No, yeah, so very first play of the game on defense, he committed illegal contact. And I was like, here we go again.
Exactly.
The GTA meme came up in my head.
Oh, here we go again.
Yeah, that is Will Harris every time he steps on the field, to be honest.
I didn't write one negative tweet about him. That's what I'm going to say. So
I'm proud. I'm very proud of you.
I didn't say a single thing about him.
You're showing growth as a human being, and I'm here for it.
Safe.
It's like the ultimate backhanded compliment there. That's just saying you're a scumbag, but you're getting better.
Hey, you said it. Oh, let's move on.
Sorry, I got in the way of what Ash was saying. I apologize.
It's fine. You're just proving the point that I made on Dan's show, and you've said it. Half the time, the best content is just us ripping into each other and long waiting to. But I was saying,
but on that LaPorta thing, can we just say that Nelson was fucking awful on that? Nelson's played himself out of this team on that first drive, and I know, Matt, you talk about offensive line backups. The level is not very high, which might be true, but we can all agree that he's below that line. He is not on that shitty line. He is below that line, and he is not good for this team no more, and that proved it. If you can't do that against the Giants backups, and you get bodied 2 times like that and put your quarterback at risk, you can't be on an NFL roster.
It does seem like his route to the 53 went from almost certain to seriously in question in this game, for sure. Yeah. Especially considering the third team left tackle came in and had a very, very good game. We'll mention him a little bit later. Obviously, he was going up against the third stringers himself, but there we go. Lions then put themselves together for their second or third big drive of the game with Nate Sudfeld. So the first one, 14 plays, 63 yards, ended in a field goal. And there are a few nice plays in here. Brock Wright for 10 yards. There was a short pass to Gibbs that he took for 18 on 3rd and 7, which was a really big completion at the time. It felt like momentum was going to swing back to them if we were going to let that one go and the defense might buckle. But carried on the drive for quite a long time. Unfortunately, Cota couldn't complete the catch when Sudfeld threw it on 3rd and 6 at the 21 to keep the drive alive, but Patterson kicks it through. It was nice to see Sudfeld actually put together a blooming series after what happened before then. And then the Lions defense, after we go 6-3, put up their third consecutive super impressive drive. 13 plays, 69 yards for the Giants. So about 5.3 yards per play, which is pretty good when you're trying to hold them back. And it finished off with a 4th and 1 play from the Lions 18, with Levi and Jalen Rismabin and Jack Campbell all cleaning up James Robinson for a tackle for a loss in our own red zone. That was an absolutely cracking play, boys. And Levi's not back, shall we say, but he's showing something.
100%.
Yeah, he is. And it's... People have got to stop doubting him and they've got to start backing him. Because ever since he came back at spring training, there's always been a group of people. He gets to spring training. It's just spring training. I want to see him do it in the summer. He gets to summer and he trains all summer. Well, I want to see him do it in camp. He gets to camp. He does it in camp. He's taking big hits. The back's holding up. He's playing well by all accounts. Oh, well, he's got to do it in the preseason games. He does it in the preseason games. Oh, well, it's like, when is it going to be good enough for you to back him again? Let's not forget, Levi has done absolutely nothing wrong on the field. This is not like he had an awful first 2 years and he's trying to win back into the good graces of people. I mean, the rookie year was not like amazing, but he's been playing hurt and he's been out for a very long time. And it takes time to get back to your best. And he's been doing it for months and months and months now. He's been making all the improvements you could ask for a guy who's been out this injured. And then you see him come into this game, and it's quite obvious, I think, why the defense played a lot harder in this one. For a lot of them, this is last chance saloon for some of them. We've said with Levi, they've set the clock on him. He has to have a 53-man roster, or we got to put him through waivers and we might lose him. And if they thought that was a possibility that they didn't want to live with, they'd have left him on they'd have left him on PUP or something like that and let him carry on recovering. So he's got to earn his spot. Julian's got to earn his spot. And he played like a man on fire. And all these guys, especially on the D-line, where the depth is now suddenly deep. Now that you add Levi back into that room, you've got Aleem, Broderick, Bugs, Benito, Covington. I mean, Covington's probably gone now from where he was. I think he's done and dusted. But there's, one of those guys might not make it, and they realize it. And Levi, you saw the way he was collapsing the pocket, the way he was disrupting in there. That's why we drafted him. And we've not had a player like him in his tenure. It's why we've missed him so much. We have plenty of good stuff at DT and good players, but we don't have the guy who can collapse the pocket, who can create those gaps for the linebackers to really go in and do damage and to come in and help finish off runners. And you just saw that day on Friday, you just saw that little glimpse of what he's capable of and what he can do. And all this, like the Campbell meme, it's just a steady ascent upwards. He's not going to go whoosh to elite status. It's going to be slow. It's going to be steady. But every single time he's been tested since spring, he's answered the call. And I love it. And people now need to start getting behind him because, it benefits this team for him to be healthy and playing and on the 53. And rooting against him is just pointless because he's not done anything to deserve that apart from be injured, which players cannot help. So I loved seeing him in this. And that's what makes your D-line so good. When you've got an interior disruptor and you're bringing so much pressure off the edge, an offensive line cannot deal with it. And their offensive line couldn't deal with squat on Friday.
So you're telling me, and that players can't help being second-round picks for us and falling victim to the curse. Of course, I'm.
Hang on,
teasing.
who's this referencing?
Oh no, there's the fact that there's the famous second-round curse. Whoever we pick in the second round usually
Oh
gets injured.
yeah.
Swift,
Yeah.
Levi, Kerryon Johnson, etc., etc. It's me, Joe. Like,
Yeah, no, it's
but this,
fine.
but this, I have been harping on all off season about how we need to add another player at free tech who can be that interior disruptor. It's seemingly me putting that out there into the universe has made Levon come on, and he could be that. I know it might be overreacting to one preseason game, but we, as you said, we saw those flashes of the player that was there before the COVID year at Washington. Great from the, he was to go back to PFF, second highest rated player on the team with an 89.3 grade. Over 70 in all three of run defense, tackling, and pass run. That's what we need from the defensive line. Someone behind Aleem, because Aleem's obviously going to start the free tech, but someone just behind him who offers a bit more of that interior pass rush where you can move Aleem to the one tech, put Levi out there at the free tech on obvious passing downs. And even if they run a draw like we did at one point in the red zone, he's able to defeat that now. We've seen that the run defense, seemingly, they've really worked on that over the past 2 years while he's been injured. He's been sitting there probably studying Aleem, studying other players and seeing how they use their bodies and use their skills to get to the running back and that. And he's learned, because that was his big, I remember that was the big knock on him, I think, coming out of Washington, other than the fact he sat at the COVID years, he was a year removed from playing, was that he was all there for the pass rush, but the run defense needed some work. Well, we saw that with that tackle for loss to end the drive. This is if he can carry on, and I hate being wrong. We all know this, but I'm happy to be proven wrong. In the space of 7 days, I've gone from saying on Dan's Twitch that Levi might be over Raj. I don't fully believe it. As we said last week with Glenn's comments about the back injury, it's done great for someone coming off that, but is he fully there? Well, now we can see that actually he is fully there, and I'm so happy to be proven wrong and to have that interior disruptor that I've been harping on about, because that means I have to go and find another small time. At this point, the holes I'm looking for to see improvements from are so tiny that it's probably not even worth it. I should just sit here and enjoy the team for what it is, because it's very well rounded, despite what other people say who have us as the 20th best roster in NFL and all this. If this is the 20th best roster in the NFL, yeah, you can probably show me seven, 8 rosters. I can say, yeah, okay, they're better. But the gap between that 9th and 20th must be so small then.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the thing with Levi is that I think that if we do end up keeping him on the roster, and I still think the chances are slim, but they're growing, is that he'll be walking into a really advantageous situation, because the guy is... I think the thing coming out of college is he was playing nose, and really he's a 3 to 5 tech, right? Yeah. Like, he's just that sort of frame that makes him the sort of pass rushing DT at the 3, or he can do some work as a sort of base end in a... Ash, you'll have to help me out. A 4-3 under?
Yeah.
So he could do some of that work. But he has developed his skills in terms of his technique. He definitely has. When you were coming into this camp, it's like, okay, well, can he just even practice? Because if he can't practice, we might as well cut the cord now. Okay, he can practice. Can he actually play some reps? Yes, he can. Can he come in and play in some games and actually show something? Well, yes, he can. And if he does, if we keep 4 DTs, and I'm not convinced that we do, but if we do keep 4 DTs, and it's a straight choice between him, Benito, and Covington, he's very much in that battle. And at that sort of 3 technique position where Benito isn't, where there is no obvious backup for the 3 tech position other than kicking someone from outside in, I might even say it's advantage him at the moment. If he can stay healthy through the remainder of camp and play some more significant reps. I mean, he's not the starter. He's going to rotate in when Aleem needs a rest. That means he's going to get plenty of rest on the sideline, come and give his best, and then rehab his back on the off plays. Like, that's a perfect situation for him. And then if he can stay healthy the whole season, God knows what happens in year 4. But right now he's gone from... I mean, I had written him off. Like, 0% chance of making the roster. I really genuinely thought he was done. And I'm so pleased for him that there's a chance now. And I was... reminded that in the play before that, Broderick Martin opened up the hole for Jack Campbell to clean up on the play before for a 1-yard gain. So, that series all around, when it really mattered, we came up trumps for 3 defensive plays in a row. We also forced a punt on the next offensive possession for the Giants. They only went 7 plays for 32 yards. And, the Lions are absolutely laughing at this point. And then, of course, Sudfeld comes in and throws another interception, boys. And this one, less on Matt Nelson, although Sudfeld did feel pressure, but he tried to force one to J-Mo up the middle into, was it triple coverage?
It was triple, yeah.
It looked pretty bad. And Campbell came out and said that one's on both of them a little bit. And while I think J-Mo maybe could have made it a bit easier for him, it doesn't help when it's a complete airball, does it, boys?
100%. And you can probably speak onto this guy more than I can. I just remember you guys speaking about him and came out. But that's what... So the guy intercepted was Dane Belton, the former Iowa safety. It was immediately was an airball. Both Sudfeld and J-Mo could have done better. But it was a really good play by him as well, to sort of read the ball coming through the air and get himself in a position where he was sort of in position to take it before J-Mo could get to it. Really good play from the Giants defender. So, yeah, obviously, most of the blame needs to go on Sudfeld for just airing that ball into what was the turkey hole of their defense. But at the same time, great play from Dane Belton.
Yeah, they had some very talented secondary guys in this. Obviously, Deontay Banks was playing. Loads of people in Lions Nation were high on him going into the draft. Belton comes from a system where they thrive off ball hawking. The Iowa secondary turned the ball over so many times to deal with that shitty offense that they have there. And you can't afford to be lazy because you can't test them in triple coverage. You've got to do well in one-on-one against them. But when you're putting it into an area where you've got multiple playmakers ready to spring, it's just they're going to eat you alive doing that. And that is, and I know Sudfeld's experience, but it's an inexperienced quarterback as actually playing, making a silly choice when, making a risky choice and putting things at risk. And it just wasn't good. And for him, it's kind of death, throws like that, the death knell. If you can't do stuff like that, you can choose not to make that throw. Like the commentators clearly said with the first interception right at the start, he had a dump off to his running back, a very easy pass outside. If you're not sure about going downfield, just take the easy option, get a few yards. That's a smart play. Live to fight another day. Don't just lob it down there and hope. And it's that decision making like that where you're yeah, guys just not got it. And unfortunately, that's kind of how you felt as this thing went through. And then when you see a guy like Adrian Martinez come in, I know we're not at that point yet, but then he's making sensible decisions for the most part. And he's a rookie who's, might not get much of a chance here. And you see him making the right decisions, when to scramble, when to not, when to throw the ball away. And it's I kind of expect that from the guy that you kind of pinning your hopes on if Goff goes down injured, or if he wants a roster spot where he wants some action. They're just stuff you can't do. So yeah, very ill-advised against that secondary. He should not have done it, and it's the death knell for him, I think. If not for quarterback 3, certainly for Teddy. There's going to be no competition with Teddy now. He's just going to be holding a clipboard all year.
Following that interception, there was a 1-play, 14-yard pass for a touchdown to Sweeney from the wide receiver quarterback DeVito. I can't remember who that was caught over. Part of me...
Jalen Reeves-Maven.
Thank you very much.
It was a complete and utter mismatch in height.
It was. Jalen actually had good coverage on it and got his hands up at the catch point in the perfect position, but it was just a good throw and a good catch. So the Lions go down 13-3 at that point. And the Lions put together a 10-play, 71-yard drive. So the second reasonable drive from Nate Sudfeld here. And there were several good plays in it. Notably, Kabinda made his one catch for the season for 9 yards to complete on 3rd and 1. Surprised they went play action on 3rd and 1, but they seem very willing to do it. J-Mo got one of his catches for 11 yards to get into the red zone, but the Lions tried it on 4th and 4 from the 4, and I have to think, boys, if it was in a real game, they might have actually kicked the field goal there on 4th and 4. But to replicate a sort of must-have-it goal line situation when the result doesn't matter, I see the value in it. And Sudfeld tried to throw a touch, but kind of looped it a bit towards Dylan Drummond. And Drummond's kind of had the separation, about a yard, maybe a yard and a half, but he couldn't put it out in front of him instead of having to turn back for it. And had it broken up by Flott, which was a real shame, boys, to go into the end of the half 13-3 down. It felt like with the 2 long drives that we had and the good defensive play that we should have gone on at least level, really.
So yeah, I completely agree. We all remember that play, the sort of Drummond play that should have been a touchdown. I remember as well that maybe if we had a timeout, I might have considered throwing the challenge flag, because obviously I remember at the time
interference. It was clear pass interference that on Drummond.
But there we go. If we had a timeout, because obviously I think that's what stopped us, because we didn't have the timeout to sort of lose if we lost the challenge, even though we wouldn't have. I would have thrown the flag. But also the first play of the drive, because I remember saying about it, James Mitchell starting in the slot, going across the back of the formation, a sort of flat, and then taking the ball 32 yards. Absolutely exquisite play. So to quote Ken from the Bar movie, sublime. That's what me and Ant were going on about last year. Just the guy, Virginia Tech showed the receiving chops, showed the blocking chops, and God, in this game, did James Mitchell come out and show what we talk about. The blocking has got a lot better, receiving still there. Remember, he didn't drop a pass last year. If that can carry on, then we wasted a couple of weeks discussing, between him and Zaid Shosha, because he was going to run away with the job anyway. Like, obviously, hope Shosha comes back healthy from the leg injury, but this is so good to see from Mitchell.
Thanks, Ash. I've got the "I'm Just Ken" song stuck in my head now again. Appreciate that.
You are.
I've just gotten rid of it, so gonna have that. I'm gonna have that one to deal with now for the rest of the show.
You are enough, Ant. You are enough.
Oh, you know what? Nate Sudfeld's number 10, isn't he? I'll probably make a joke out of that now. I'll probably readjust those lyrics for Nate Sudfeld. That'd be quite fun, actually. We'll do it. But the offense just didn't look right in the first half. It was quite obvious. There were just a lot of guys in there and who were new, have not had a lot of snaps, who were adjusting to it. And that's fine in the first half of a preseason game. You're going to have, issues, continuity issues. You're going to have issues of trust, working together, and you hope you see it better in the second half, and we did, thankfully. It was much better afterwards, and that's what you want to see. Just go in, get better, come back out again. But J Mitch is going to be good this year. It's odd. Some players just get forgotten about for some reason, and it's like J Mitch has again not done anything to deserve suspicion as to what he does. He was injured last year. He didn't get much of camp, and then he sort of had to come into the season. And because Brock Wright's done so well, and everybody's sort of chipped in, Zylstra's chipped in, everyone goes, "Oh well, J Mitch is a bust now." It's like, for God's sake, he's been injured. Just give him a chance to come in and do his stuff. And again, you've sort of seen in glimpses of this now. You've seen the catchability in there. Thought he blocked pretty well as well when he was asked to. It was like, you're beginning to see the play. You're beginning to see the benefits of a full camp. Like, Levi's had a full camp, thankfully not injured. You're seeing the benefit. It honestly does make a big difference to some of these guys. And I expect J Mitch to carry on doing some good stuff in the preseason. And a lot of guys started to stand up after the half. We'll talk about them in a minute. But yeah, I wasn't disappointed, but I'm not surprised we went in behind. But the fact that we were so little behind did not surprise me either, because the defense just kind of played their ass off and did really well, apart from that one little spell where DeVito started slicing us to start with, but that soon got cut out. So I didn't actually have that many complaints at halftime, given the situation of things and that.
So we went in 13-3 behind at the half, and the Giants have the ball to start the second half as well. They go in and go 3 and out. They actually had a sack on for Julian Acquire on the quarterback, losing 8 on 3rd and 9. So they're in pump formation at their own 33. And then there's a delay of game setting them back even further, so they go back to the 28. And from the 28, Gillian punts, the Scottish Hammer punts 67 yards, but that's net 67. He punted from his own 10. So he punted it 85 yards all the way to the Lions' 5. And Maurice Alexander, after a couple of pirouettes and a couple of spin moves, ends up with a few blocks here and there, running it all the way back for a 95-yard touchdown. The Lions also went for a 2-point conversion attempt to Jameson Williams, and it looked very much like that previous play to Dylan Drummond's that he underdid. And although Jameson didn't have the separation that Drummond did, he managed to haul it in one-handed, which was a really lovely play. So in the blink of an eye, having not had the ball and 10 points down, the Lions suddenly get 8 and they're within 2, boys. The punt return itself was a fantastic play, and we actually have a question from Lady Lion 20 saying, is Alexander in there for the 53 potentially now after that play?
Of course he is. I mean, what you need now, I think I discussed this when I came on the end of the show the other day, but he needs to be given reps as a receiver now. He needs to be given targets to show that he can do it in the receiving game, because that's what you want. Obviously, you want him to do the returning and that's his way on the roster. But, you also want to see that he can offer you something as a wide receiver, 5, 6, or 7, because those spots are still wide open for us at the minute. And, the way he's hung around since last year, the way he's persevered, the team have kept him around, these guys, our coaches see things in people and they give them a good opportunity to come here and do it. And I swear I remember saying this when he first came last year, but give him more targets and give him more of an opportunity to show what he can do. So week 2, that's one of the big things I'm looking for. Give Maurice some targets and let him do some stuff in the receiving game. But in terms of the game itself, sometimes it just takes one play to kind of unlock things. And that just felt like the spark they needed. It seemed to give the offense a little extra skip in their step. Because then, like I said, the very next play, Jameson takes a one-hander over his shoulder, which was a beautiful catch, by the way, and was absolutely not reported on by all those troll accounts that love to knock JMO down because they're, biased pricks who wouldn't know how to neutrally report stuff in their life. It just makes them better to slag off JMO. But, after those 2 plays, you're like, there's a big step in this team now. It's just given the team a bit of life, and that's all it takes sometimes. Just takes a little bit, and the team responded. But Maurice, it was fantastic. It was great.
It was Hampshire doing some.
Yeah, so, I mean, for me, in terms of Maurice, love the return itself. I'll come to Ash in a second. I do think that his route to the 53 is one of the hardest on the team, because I don't think he provides enough on offense that he would have to be a Jamal Agnew kind of level returner on a consistent basis to even make it potentially there. Like, I'm not willing to crown him as that sort of level of returner yet. He's clearly got that sort of quick twitch energy you need and the instincts at that position. But there's quite a few guys vying for returner spots who provide more on offense or defense. So the route is definitely harder for him for me, but it was a fantastic play, and he's definitely put himself in the shop window.
He 100% has.
He can't prove himself till he gets targets. It's kind of hard to show what you can do when you're not given a chance to.
See, I come halfway between you guys because remember, this is a punt return and we already have a guy there. So if he's going to make it for special teams, he's either going to have to beat out Khalif for punt returns, which is very unlikely, or he's going to have to do, which I was quickly looking up, he has to win this kick returner job that's come open since Justin Jackson's gone. So obviously last year he returned 6 kicks for 24.3 yards per kick. Not that bad. Earned himself a 56.5 kickoff return graded by PFF, but PFF grading special teams.
Oh, they're rubbish on special teams. Don't bother.
That would have that 24.3 out of everyone that qualified on Pro Football Reference in terms of number done would have come in 6th above like Jerome Ford, Marcus Jones, Bex, but all these. So he definitely could do it the kick return, but he has to win that kick return job. And then, as Ant says, in the training camp and then hopefully in preseason game 2 and 3, show enough to beat out Dylan Drummond, Chase Coter, who will hopefully come on to later as one of sort of winners to this game, beat them in terms of showing offense and also win that kick, because otherwise, unfortunately, he's going to be practice squad again and then we do the whole elevations thing and use him for kick return. And as soon as those are done, either there's an injury to someone else who can elevate him properly, or he's on his way to another team and we have to bring in someone else. Unfortunately, if he doesn't win outright like that, that's probably his. It's similar to last year. Practice squadder, elevated for certain games for his return abilities when we need it. Other than that, sits there, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I mean, so I haven't gone back and watched all 3 of his targets, so I don't know how many of them were catchable, and I'll come on to JMO on this point as well. But he caught 1 of 3 for 7, so it's not like he didn't have any opportunities whatsoever. But JMO went 2 for 7. Well, 2 of his were definitely uncatchable, and I feel like it might have been 4, but I need to go back and watch. 2 of 7 for 18 for JMO sounds bad. The 2-point conversion isn't in there, and if half of the targets are uncatchable, it's not on the wide receiver. So you've got to take the targets with a pinch of salt. But Maurice getting 3 targets is not having no chance whatsoever, I would argue. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I was trying to see if, because I know Pro Football Reference has a sort of on-target percentage, but it's not out yet for the game. So I was going to see if I could try and find it out. But yeah, you raise valid points about were the targets good enough kind of thing.
Yeah, and the defense continues to dominate going into the rest of the game. So the Giants went 3 and out. They go 3 and out again, and the Scottish Hammer just, decides that he's absolutely lost his stones, and he decides to kick the ball out of bounds to avoid Maurice Alexander. So you can tell that he's impacting the game already, sacrificing a bit of distance on the kick to make sure you avoid a return altogether. And the Lions go down the field 2 down and get the field goal to go 1 point in front. Another good drive. Ozigbo got a good number of reps on this one now, coming in as the running back after, unfortunately, Mo Ibrahim did pick up an injury earlier on in the game. There was Chase Coter starting to come alive with catches in this drive of 12 and 8 yards. There was then, unfortunately, a delay of game penalty on 4th down when it looked like they were going to run something. They couldn't get it off in time. And Romo came into the game, Romo Cop, as Ant would like to call him. It's not going to stick. And the Lions take their first lead of the game, going in 14-13, and the Lions just continue to do their thing on defense, forcing another 2 punts in the next 2 possessions. So the first 4 possessions, boys, in the second half of the game went for the Giants punt, 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 and then ended field goal interception. I mean, it was a clinic by this defense overall.
And why am I getting picked on today? I feel like you've been cruel towards me today, and I don't feel like I've done anything to justify that. My Romo Cop nickname is just good. It will kick on eventually, because everyone thinks Romo's not going to get the job. When he's a starting kicker, it will pick up. But it's just a bit mean, that is. But yeah, the defense, amazing. Like you said, it's just the Giants. They reacted and they adapted to everything. I said just before halftime, DeVito was making a few throws, and I'm like, I kind of don't like being diced up by DeVito because he's a really bad quarterback. He's not great at all, and they made adjustments. And second half, he was running for his life. The D line was just getting so much pressure. The coverage was better. They figured him out, and we've not seen a lot of that over the years. And yes, it's just preseason, but you can only do with what's put in front of you. So, the defense just was great, and the offense just came to life. Everybody was fighting. You see it all over. I mean, I was really impressed with Coter, because everyone's talking about Drummond in camp. No one's really been talking about Chase Coter, but sometimes some guys do it in training. Sometimes some guys will do it on the field for you. It's kind of like Tom Kennedy's been doing. He did it in last preseason. He did his talking there, not in training. And Coter just seems to have come to life. And it's intriguing with him because, we lack big-bodied guys who can play on the perimeter. And, his route into the team is simpler in terms of, the makeup of the receiver core, what we could do with. And if he can carry on doing what he did, because he seemed to have a good rapport with Sudfeld. The separation seemed to be pretty good. The quarterback trusted him. I think he had like one drop in there somewhere, but I'm pretty sure it was his first one he got handed to him. So rookie jitters, you can forgive that. But overall, he just kept making plays. And there were a few screen passes I saw him making some lovely blocks on as well. He was really just getting down and stuck in there. And it's just like, that's how fierce this competition is. It's how fierce it's making players play for. Like everybody, it felt in that second half was like, nobody's safe and they're all fighting for their futures. And that's what you want to see. So both sides of the ball were very impressive.
Yeah, let me just finish off the rest of this game and then we can talk about it generally. So the Giants eventually do go and get some more points on the field, on the board, getting another field goal. So 1 touchdown and 4 field goals? No, 3 field goals for the Giants. It was only a 6-play, 39-yard drive. There was a couple of penalties in there as well. Again, always money. But then the Lions, with time starting to run down, only 8 minutes left when we had the ball, and Adrian Martinez with a stonking drive to finish it off, lads. Snell got it started with a bit of a good run, but Martinez to Cota for 16, then to Trey Quinn for 8. Got sacked, but Baldonado got done for roughing the passer. Maybe we were a bit fortunate with that one. He did hit him in the head, but it was a little soft. It wasn't like he got smacked in the head. It was like touch.
Can't touch the helmet.
Can't touch the helmet, indeed. And then Martinez kind of made the scramble on 3rd and 7, 4-7 to get it up to the Giants 4. And then a rush by him to sneak into the end zone for a touchdown. And finally, the Giants, with time expiring, throw up a kind of just a jump ball in desperation with pressure in his face, and Brandon Joseph finishes it off. We didn't lead for very much in this game, but with 8 minutes to go, that drive took six and a bit minutes off the clock, so didn't leave the Giants backups much time. All in all, a pretty solid game. And let's just talk generally now about the game, who's really improved their stock and, who has left with something to do. One of our viewers has kind of said a couple of things as well to put things into context. So Mike the Marine saying, are too many people overthinking the play of our 2s on defense against the Giants' 2s on offense? I was saying this was more about rookie experience and a few missed assignments for veterans. And Brent DeWitt as well was saying, what do you think about the quarterbacks? For Sudfeld, is it just that maybe Teddy being on the sidelines added pressure to him, and Martinez showed that the moment wasn't too big for him, but maybe Sudfeld had a bit of stage fright? Kind of mix all those things into your thoughts generally about the game.
So Ant already spoke about one of my guys who really impressed me, being Chase Cota, as we referred to earlier. As I said, remember when we signed him just as we were finishing our day 3 sort of draft coverage, when all the UDFAs starting to come out. I remember we signed him. It was like coming out of Oregon, has some connections to the staff, has the prototype X sort of style. Worth a look. Didn't really hear that much about him in all the camp reports, and then completely balls out. I do disagree a bit with Ant saying he really outshined Drummond. Drummond did really well in the first half as well.
I didn't say he outshined Drummond.
Fair enough. I thought it sounded like to me. I love Drummond. Drummond is one of my guys. My guy in this preseason. He's my TK 2.0. But I do like Cota as well. But I think he actually has a slightly harder way to the roster. It's the same way that Marvin might have a hard way as a veteran, because Goff doesn't really like those contested ball guys. As much as I want a basketball style of squad of receivers where each has different skill sets and you really play matchups with them. Goff really doesn't like throwing contested balls unless he 100% trusts that guy. So unless Cota in the next 2-3 weeks gets to play with Goff, really has that connection with him where Goff can trust him to go for the 50-50 balls. I think Drummond, who's more of the sort of route running, get open kind of receiver that Goff likes better, I think he has a better chance to the roster. But Cota's definitely put his name down for the fight for that wide receiver 5-6 role now. So I'm intrigued to watch how that goes. Another one, and I mentioned him earlier, and I wasn't surprised, but it's nice to see him finally breaking out. James Mitchell did really good blocking wise, did great in the receiving game, and hopefully can build on it next couple of weeks.
See, when it comes to the quarterbacks, for me, Sudfeld should be done. he no longer has this safety net of, oh, he's the clipboard guy who's experienced and gives you something to the roster. Sorry, we've got Teddy now. So as far as I'm concerned, you lose that safety net and you have to prove something to this team. You have to prove you can actually be worthy of something on this team that gives you quarterback 3. And as I've already alluded to with Martinez, when Martinez was on the field, he made smart, calculated decisions. And even when he got sacked, even when he made a bad throw, he shook it off. He made correct decisions, sensible things. That's what you want to see you do. And if Sudfeld got stage fright, well, sorry, Sudfeld, screw you, because you're going to be playing at Detroit Lions all season in an atmosphere like that if you're called on in a game condition. And if you can't deal with that, then I'm sorry, but you got to go. You're done. What do I want from a quarterback 3? I want him to give me something different. I want him to give me something that, if he is required upon, if he has to suit up, I can use with it. Martinez, he's not the greatest passer in the world, and he never will be, but he possesses a good dual threat on the field. He can make the throws. He gives you a different dimension to what Goff and Teddy offer, and you want to have as much diversity in your QB ranks as possible. I mean, if for anything, you can use him on your scout teams. You can use him to help prepare you against those mobile guys. That is a big offering to this team. Nate Sudfeld offers nothing to this team now that Teddy is here, unless Teddy is injured. So that safety net he's been hiding behind is gone. So as far as I'm concerned, and I know Dan's already said Martinez is going to get less reps and Sudfeld will carry on there, but I think Dan will change his mind. I think he's just saying that to be nice, and I think he's gone. I mean, in terms outside of that, so the running back room, I'd like to see the new guy given a little bit more in there. He's going to have his chance now. Mo injured sucks balls because I'm just so disappointed for him of all he's had to go through in college to still get a chance here, and then to get this niggle now, which might keep him out for preseason, because you really needed 3 good games in preseason to go, yeah, he's going to be my running back 3. If he's lost those now, that's just heartbreaking for him. Hopefully you could get him on the practice squad and keep him in that view. Same with Jamar. I love Jamar, but this injury's just hit him at the worst time possible because he needed game reps and he needs game time. He's not getting it. Craig's not getting it. So, that spot is just so wide open now for somebody to come in and take that spot. So running back for me has gone from strength in the depth there, and it's just like, it's now a problem. Running back 3 is because we need someone to come in and fill that spot up. And they're all injured.
We got Craig.
So
hey, this Zeke's still a free agent.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. Oh, go away.
What?
You said Zeke's still out there.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. I'm joking. But to build off what you just said, and it's come out obviously since we've been on a podcast, but practice has been over. 2 quarterbacks have been taking extra work after the practice with receivers. Teddy's one of them, but Sudfeld's not the other. It's Adrian Martinez. The team is getting work with J-Mo, Drummond, Xigbo, and Avery Davis, who just re-signed. Yeah. Sudfeld's not to be seen. He's gone. He's gone, unfortunately.
His only safety net was that vet clipboard holder option, but we've now actually got a guy who can play football as the vet.
Yeah.
So he's done for now. I'd rather keep the rookie who has an element of surprise about him as my QB3, because that's what your QB3 should be. Just gives you a little something different, dip into your bag of tricks if you need to, and can still offer something in the team there otherwise. But yeah. But Craig's not playing. Craig didn't play on Friday.
Injured.
And that's what I mean. He's injured. So for me, if Craig doesn't play that much in this preseason or not at all, I'm not giving him running back 3 just off that. I kind of want someone who's ready to go, who's gonna come in and do it. And hell, if it's going to be a Zigbo or it's going to be Benny Snell, and they're going to come in and they perform well, because let's face it, in an ideal world, we don't really need a running back 3 to rush the ball when we've got Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery on there. So I want a guy who can come in fit and healthy, ready to go if need be. I'm going to carry someone who's not played. So receiver core is really interesting. Like I said, there are guys on the periphery fighting for that. It's going to be interesting, but you can tell that the competition is intense there. And Coulter and Drummond are doing everything they can to get on this roster. So that's the most you can expect for them, which is great. The offensive line depth is fucking alarming. Sorry, go on, Ash.
I was going to say, when you say about the offensive line, because it just popped into my head, and we did kind of mention him a tiny bit at the top, but it just popped into my head. Another UDFA, Connor Galvin. So he's the guy who initially came in third string left tackle.
Yeah.
But this is a guy 6'7", 300 pound out of Baylor. UDFA resigned him. 72.4 PFF grade with an 82.2 pass blocking grade.
At the end of the day, when you talk about backup offensive linemen, and we have seen the fruits of this, generally speaking, when you get down at that level, your physical prowess of the defensive linemen, who they're in the NFL, they may not be as refined with their hands, but their physicality at that level give the backup offensive lineman more trouble than as far further up you go up. So the backup offensive linemen have it much harder. You saw that with our defense against their offensive line. So Galvin coming in against the third string, it's like, okay, but that's probably some of the best opposition he's ever faced, apart from in practices that he's been doing with the Lions and against the Giants. So to him to come in here and have that grade, it's worth more than the value of that grade. It's proving he can do it at this level against defenders who are potentially better than anyone's ever faced before. So
I think every single depth spot on the offensive line is open right now. I mean, there's not. I mean, obviously apart from the rookies, but every other spot that's physically available is available. There's no one who's nailing it down. We said this. We do need to build more through the rookies. You can't find good backups in this league, really. Your best bet is hitting on rookies in the draft behind established starters, so giving the reps to Sorsdal, doing that. And to be honest, I didn't hear Sorsdal's name much. I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing. I'm thinking it's more a good thing.
Yeah,
I didn't hear anything. So
the only time I remember Sorsdal being mentioned, it was me and Matt mentioned it, was the Pierce Baker injury.
Yeah,
he was involved, in that, obviously, because he's right next door to him as the right guard. But other than that, completely not mentioned. It was that left-hand side of the line with Nelson and Paolo who were getting most of the focus.
I mean,
and they're just, neither of them should be anywhere near this. But you know what? I give it a lot. I think Millet's going to have a good chance eventually. We've only just signed him, but the dude is not long out of college. He's played a ton on a team that produces good quality linemen. I know he's not settled so far, but if you wanted to take a thing on a younger guy who's positionally versatile and you can bring in, and we've got a probably better offensive line coach than most teams in the league. There's only a few that could probably boast someone as good as Hank. I think he's going to have every chance to come in. I'm actually looking forward to seeing him, especially now with Pierce Parker injured. So, but I'm desperate for us to carry on recruiting as many people from outside as possible and just keep going until we land on somebody, because for me, it's not set. Opposite on the other side of the D-line, it's who the hell do you get rid of? That's going to be really bad when it comes to cut time, and I'm not looking forward to it at all. But, they're all working their ass off. Fine with that. The linebackers I love. Everybody is working their ass off on there. Rodrigo played well. Barnes played well. Campbell played well. I think they're going to be such a good unit of four, them guys are. I think they just all bring something different. They're playing great. And then the secondary looked good. Really did. And, these sort of depth guys fighting it out again. Competition's high. Safeties did well. Branch did well. Came out of this, there were very few things that were really concerning me. It was mainly the O-line depth and Sudfeld that I was a bit met by, but everyone else, very, very pleasing.
Just to highlight the backup positions on the offensive line, because you mentioned it earlier, I thought Fedi looked good in a second-team offensive line that crumbled. On an island, I thought he looked pretty good. Not on an island. Him and Sorsdal, I thought, looked relatively untroubled on that right-hand side. I thought Awashika had a really good game at left guard, while people around him were crumbling. Matt Nelson. I thought Awashika had a really good game. And so with Pierce Baker going down injured, that's a shame. But you know what? Between Sorsdal and Glasgow, with Glasgow having backup centre as well, I really think that between Afedi, Sorsdal, then centre's Glasgow, left guard is Awashika, I really think that maybe the hole is left tackle. But what if Connor Galvin actually can be serviceable there? I really thought he might kick into guard, but he did well enough at tackle where I can think, you know what? And I'm with you. I think we should still be looking for people because I'm not sold on almost any of them. We need to continue challenging them. But I think I've seen enough from this game and stuff that I've heard in practices where I'm like, maybe what we saw was an isolated player here or there having really bad reps, and one guy in particular. But actually, I thought the offensive line looked okay. I don't know. But moving on from that, a couple of guys that I want to highlight who had good games. I thought that we had a few people kind of go out there and confirm that they are who we thought they were. Branch is the obvious one with that really big hit, which was great. But Stephen Gilmore really backs up the hype that we've heard from practices where it's like, this guy has actually got something. And it's all well and good doing it in practice, but actually in Ford Field with, 75% capacity field for a bloody preseason game. Well done the fans for getting out there and supporting the team because it was loud and I loved it. It's a different kettle of fish doing it out there in front of those fans. And he absolutely did that. Julian has to be mentioned. He's put himself back in the reckoning. I mean, I still think that he's edge/outside linebacker 7. But he's very much in the reckoning that if he can, become a bit more consistent in these next couple of weeks, he's in for a shout in the role. Kaminsky had a fantastic 12 reps before he was yanked. I mean, even Brandon Joseph popping up for that interception at the end, and he generally had a good game. The people who needed to have a good game to stay relevant in these next couple of weeks have managed to stay relevant. A couple of people that I didn't really like, I mean, I mentioned Will Harris before, and, and I'm not singling them out, it's more just that he laughs at me for it. But Will Harris, I have been a defender of him for some time. I still don't think he's going to get cut, but I thought he had a relatively poor game. Started off with a flag, but also got beaten a couple of times. Had a couple of tackles too, but I didn't fancy what he did in that game. And the other one I was super disappointed by was Daniel Helm, the tight end. He came in, and I think he gave away 3 penalties. I might be wrong. Maybe it was.
He got wrecked on a pass play by someone as well in pass protection. I can't remember who did it, but he got wrecked.
Two penalties.
Two penalties, and as Ant says, he got wrecked in pass protection. I was looking at him going, I don't know. The other guy I liked, and I know the train's going to run away with it, and we named the episode after him, was Benny Snell. I thought he looked like the best of the running backs that came in relief. I mean, the stats for both sides were really poor in rushing. Lions went 97 yards on 33 reps. That's less than 3 yards a carry. The Giants went 81 yards on 22 reps, so that's about 3.7. But the reps are slightly harmed because Sudfeld went one carry for 1 yard and Martinez went 5 for 14. But Ibrahim was 4 for 9. That's 2.25 yards per carry. Jahmyr Gibbs was 6 for 19. That's just over 3. And Ozigbo looks okay on 1 rep, but went for 9 yards. The rest of his carries went 10 carries for 22 yards. I mean, I know the offensive line wasn't doing great, but Benny Snell came in and got 6 carries for 23 yards with a long of 6. That means that the majority of his reps were going for between 4 and 5 yards a carry. That, or 3 to 5 yards a carry. That is the sort of consistency I'm looking for, and I hope that Snell gets a bit more of an opportunity in the next preseason game, to be honest.
See, there was one running back who definitely impressed, and I ended with an average of 13.3, but it wasn't one of ours. It was my boy Corbin. If he gets, I know, and this might come across as Knowles bias, but he did look good as a sort of opposition guy. Obviously, I think he got target. Yeah, he had 1 target for about 1 catch for -3 yards on 2 targets, but when he got the chance, when he was able to hit the hole really for that 33-yard run, which admittedly I didn't see. I don't think it was in the 4th quarter, but he looked good. Like if we're still having this debate like week 3, and then he gets cut by the Giants, I wouldn't be surprised if we've had a look. 'Cause it's what has happened, as we said today with Collette. We forget we pent up against him last year. Admittedly, he didn't do so well in the preseason game because they moved him from centre to right guard. But this is someone we had a joint practice against last year. And it probably would have been in the back of Dan's mind, Dan and Brad's mind, oh yeah, here's someone. So I remember when I was discussing this on Discord last week, oh yeah, who's guys that we might look at? And I was saying David Sills, Colin Johnson, The tackle who got absolutely killed by Houston and Julian wasn't in them. This might be the guy who we might come back at and have a look at roster cut downs.
I mean, yeah, so someone else who needs praise from this one as well. I want to give praise to Rodrigo. I mean, he played really well, and I take great umbrage with all these people who suddenly have this opinion that he's looking from the outside on this team. He is a valuable member of this team, and nobody on this roster has put in more work than him to establish himself from such a weak position coming in as a 6th-round pick. It was basically no hope and has just proven every single person wrong ever since we drafted him. Yes, he tailed off towards the end of last year. Good God, he's a 6th-round rookie who played well for 3/4 of a season, got hurt, was playing through the pain, still performing pretty damn well for what he is. And he's getting doubted, and people are like, "Oh well, he's looking in." It's like, no, he's come into preseason game 1. He's played, what was it? 2 targets, -3 yards. One of them he broke up. The other was a tackle for loss. There were tackles in run defense. There was hustling. He hustled the quarterback out on one play. He does special teams. Why he puts in the most amount of work in this team and people are just still doubting him is beyond me at this point. He is a great player and the epitome of what this team is, and he needs to stop being down. He is not number 4 in that linebacker room. All these guys, Campbell, Rodrigo, Barnes, they are all going to make it on their own right. There's no tiering system. There's what each guy brings to this team, and what it is a depth to a linebacker room we've just not had, like, ever. They're really good players. He's earned his right in there. So please, for the love of God, stop doubting him.
Yeah, fair. Right. I'm going to move it on now to the press conferences in the last 7 days, which include the post-game presses after the game against the Giants. I just want to take this opportunity to say, if you guys are enjoying the content, please don't forget to show us some love with the super chats and the subscriptions and all that good stuff, or just throw us a like and a rating and a review on your podcast provider. Be good enough for me. Right, press conferences, August 8th, so going back 6 days now. We got Dan Campbell in the building saying he's looking for competing in the joint practices at hello. Why have I missed out completely talking about training camp in itself? I'll do press conferences in a second. Training camp, joint practices day 1, same day, August 8th. So on offense, no Jonah Jackson with injury or Frank Ragnow with family. Glasgow and Arashik and Paolo split reps to replace him. Brad Cecil, the backup centre, came into the second team as Glasgow came up to the first, but he botched 2 handoffs to Sudfeld and he was pulled immediately, which is sad to hear. Amon St. Brown beat Deontay Banks, the first round rookie. First round? Yes, first round rookie, for a huge game on the very first play of the one-on-ones, and he won every rep seen by Jeremy Reisman. I should note that these are all taken from Pride of Detroit. Go and read the full review if you want. I am just summarising these. Also said that Dylan Drummond had a really big day with some great routes and reaction catches, including having to go and get one from a couple of yards behind him. Gibbs scored 2 touchdowns in red zone drills and did well on 11-on-11s. Darren Paolo, unfortunately, in that first team split reps along with Arashika, he gave up a sack to Dexter Williams in red zone drills. On defense, Barnes was repping more with the 1s and Campbell dropped down to a bit more with the 2s. Branch played with the 1s, which shifted Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back to safety, and Walker repped entirely with the 2s. Houston and Julian Aquara split time with the 2s. That's the first time that we've seen both of them elevated to that level. Both have mostly been repping with the 3s or even later. Hutch dominated the practice, as he always does, with 2 sacks in there. And Kirby had 3 pass breakups in the one-on-ones, as well as 2 quarterback run stops in red zone drills. But overall, the defense really struggled to cover tight ends, most notably Darren Waller. Into the second and final day of joint practices on the 9th of August. Injuries or absences. So Ragnow still away with family. Jackson, Reynolds, Daniels and Benson still away with injury. Denzel Mims returned, but he left practice in this day after appearing to aggravate his injury. To date, I don't know whether there was anything on the press conferences today, but I don't think there's been any word on how severe that injury is. No.
Jeremy has tweeted earlier that he wasn't fully in practice, but he was working with a trainer afterwards. So it looks like he's close to coming back.
Fair enough. So on offense, Gibbs, after having a huge day the day before, got extra attention from the Giants and kind of struggled to deal with that, especially in man coverage drills. Monty, Gibbs, and Amon-Ra St. Brown all fumbled on the day, which was notable because it was a bit of a shift from otherwise. And Martinez also threw a pick. Monty, though, did have a nice blitz pickup in red zone drills, allowing Goff to complete for a touchdown to Amon-Ra St. Brown from the 6. Gibbs also had a 4th down wheel route catch in double coverage, although apparently didn't get his feet down, but even snagging it generally was just an amazing catch. On defense, Lions struggled again versus Darren Waller, which is disappointing considering they also struggled against him on the previous day. You know, the Giants reacted to us them struggling with Gibbs, but we still can't cover tight ends, and it's nothing new really. Kirby apparently got a PBU again, and the Lions generally got 2 coverage sacks. Branch gave up a couple of touchdowns on the practice, but he got a PBU and a sack to hit back. Lucas also got a pass breakup with the 2s. Sutton had a nice pass breakup against Darius Slayton, even though he's not a speedy outside corner. He managed to carry Slayton 30 yards downfield and made a nice play on the ball. Gardner Johnson had a nice instinct against a bubble screen, coming from 10 yards deep to make a tackle for a loss. Barnes made a great pass read, but dropped the interception, got a pass breakup instead. Malcolm Rodriguez got a PBU and got a big hit for a tackle, but gave up a touchdown. Campbell was quiet, but managed to carry Tyrod Taylor on a scramble in the red zone all the way out of bounds, which is super impressive and shows his range. Pascal Kaminsky and Martin all had sacks or near sacks on the day too. So overall, it seemed like wherever Jeremy happened to be watching practice, good things seemed to happen, and unfortunately the opposite seemed to happen away from him, but there we go. I'll go into the press conferences in just a second, but I've talked for long enough. Boys, during practices seemed to go well. Both sides of the ball seemed to have a good day and then a recovery day, and to be quite frank, I think it's going to be somewhat worrying if you just absolutely dominate all the time. You want your squads to face adversity when it doesn't really matter and have kind of something to come back from and light a fire under their belly. So in a way, I was quietly kind of really pleased at the reporting I was hearing.
Yeah. And you didn't even mention the best bit of the joint practices. A certain CJ Garner-Johnson's comments to Amani Oruwariye after a
that was
rep.
hilarious.
I wasn't gonna do Amani.
Oh no, of course, you know me, and I'm going to bring it up if you weren't. So
well, that's on you guys. I'm not going to do it.
True. Well, we'll take the heat.
Oh yeah, because you've got no history of being an instigator on here. Look at him taking the high ground now. Oh, look at me! I don't cause trouble on here. When you can see the spoon in the back of his room that he uses to stir the fucking gumbo around here all the time. So, but no, Ash is right. It was fun. It was funny. Read the quote, Ash.
So, there's 2 bits. So, Amani was covering, I think it was Raymond on a rep, loses it. CJ Garner-Johnson seeing it says, "You can't cover shit, and the reason you're not here is because you're soft and you lack grit." And of course, Jerry and Kirby are there to back him up, being his boys. Was he wrong? In the game? Well, no. In the preseason game, Marley did okay. Didn't really see him, which is probably the best thing considering what he was last year. Like, you could easily spot him. Just look where the refs were throwing their yellow dusters, and you'll usually find Amani in the vicinity. But such a good moment, and it just shows why CJ's here. Like, Garner Johnson's here to come in and already be that sort of lead in the sort of secondary, saying the stuff, have people backing him up, bringing that intensity, and as we've said before, the sort of like cheek that we haven't had since Slay, since GQ. So beautiful to hear. And then obviously, as Anton to say to someone as well who was here last year was a bad thing, and now suddenly this secondary looking a lot better. It's just glorious.
Amani quit on this franchise. I know people will argue that, but he quit. He looked like he couldn't be bothered last year, and it was a contract year. He had his best year, and he did nothing. And I think it's about time. So many players have come to this team, done nothing, and walked away, and there's been no repercussion for it. And yeah, it's only a few words, but it is about time that someone on this team now says, look, you're part of that loser mentality past. We're going to a better place now, while you are going to stay in the mediocrity where you belong. And I love CJ's regard to it. He doesn't take no prisoners. And you know for a damn fact that every guy in that secondary, be it young or veteran, is, they are accountable to him and his standards. He's the guy who's been to a Super Bowl. He's the guy who's the best at what he does in the NFL at his position. He's earned the right to be like that, and he needs to be that guy, because sometimes you've got to hear harsh home truths. Even if it's players on this team he's saying it to, I don't mind, because they'll respond to it, because they have the mindset and the mentality to do so. So as far as CJ goes, I absolutely love it. But in terms of the practices itself, I just feel like the Giants are such a perfect fit for us and us for them in terms of the way we play. I mean, you think of Brian Daboll, the way he coaches football, and, he's into his trench warfare. He's all about being tough, about being gritty, but also having skilled playmakers. They really do suit us, because you're going to get tested in the trenches. Like the backup offensive linemen were having nightmares, but that's what you've got to do to them. You've got to put them under. You've got to give our first teamers trouble, and vice versa on the D line. You saw Hutch going up with Andrew Thomas and stuff like that. That's only good for him to go up against someone of that caliber, and that's where we're strongest. Having to go up against one of the best units you'll come up against is beneficial. And you saw it all over the field. Like you said, the corners, the linebackers, everybody's scrapping. I mean, Darren Waller, it's an injustice to call him a tight end. Let's just call him what he is a great player in the NFL. I mean, you've seen the start of this week, whoever they're playing they've been causing nightmares. They're saying he's having an all-time camp at the minute. He's already a top 3 tight end in the NFL.
He only cost the number 100 pick in the draft as well. Joke.
Yeah.
Anyway. That was because he had substance abuse stuff coming out of college.
Yeah. No. I didn't mean that. I meant the trade from the Raiders. He pissed the coach off, so he got traded for a late 3rd round pick. It's a joke.
Yeah. The Giants went from Kadarius Toney straight to Darren Waller, because it was the Toney pick they got from the Chiefs that they used to get Waller.
Yeah, and it's stupidly good value, but like I say, your team is going to be better after that in the week. And I think you saw it during the game, all these guys desperate to go out there and prove a point. And I know it's against the seconds and that, but you want teams who are physically going to test you and make you better. And that's what I liked about it. So I like the pick with the Jags as well, because I think that's going to be similar. They are also stacked along both lines, really. I mean, the offensive line's taken a bit of a knock this year, but they're still going to be a team who's going to punch you in the face, and we're going to be better for having done it. So, I liked camp, and like as I say, we did show that little bit of an edge sometimes, because I think we are a better team than them, and I think overall we just about won it to where I want us to be at, and we're a better team. So I enjoyed the week. I'm not going to lie, and the injuries which were minimum, so always a bonus.
All right, let's move it on now to the pressers. So Dan Campbell, I mentioned, was first up. He said about going into joint practices, he was looking just for competing at a high level and the attention to the small details on both sides of the ball. About the Teddy signing, he said, I was with him for 2 years. I see how he works for the offense, works for the young guys, comes in the day before the game, takes the young wide receivers, takes them through the game plan, reps them, tells them what he's looking for with those reps. Breeze went down with injury and he came in as starter and kept it afloat, going 5-0, and that means a lot to me personally. Then in a 3-year period, this is definitely the most competitive and best roster we've ever had. If something happens, you want to feel like you can keep the ship afloat, brackets, at quarterback. If you're a bubble guy, he said, you've got 2 teams evaluating you this week, so I'd be hyped, man. This is the absolute best. Basically, if you don't make it with the Lions, but you're number 54, maybe the Giants pick you up, or vice versa. So there's a little more pressure this week. There's going to be a separator for some of these guys. There's fans out there every day. There's 2 teams, 2 staffs. It's going to be a bit more chaotic, and that will sort the wheat from the chaff. And he said, Teddy's likely not doing anything until next week. And here we are. There's new terminology for Teddy, so it will take him a minute to acclimatise. But he's been in so many schemes and so many teams that he'll know all the concepts. They'll just be called something slightly different. Moving on to players, we had Alex Anzalone on the same day. He said that joint practices are super important, and Dan Campbell emphasises that well in terms of evaluation and earning jobs. He said it's definitely more fun with a crowd against another team on defence. Not going up against our offence once was nice. Not covering Gibbs in the flat is a blessing. However, having to face Darren Waller once or twice is always going to be tough. He said every competition brings out the best in people. Barnes and Campbell are at different points in their career. And I mean, not much, but hey. So Jack trying to play catch up in terms of experience. Derek's playing faster than he ever has before and making that step. Said our communication has definitely improved with more time in the system for everyone. So passing people off, seeing things in that offense, everything's getting a little easier in that sense. Said I feel like I'm playing in a bit more of my natural position as the weak side linebacker. Knowing what AG wants from this defense is perhaps the most comfortable I've ever been in my career. And he said about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, he brings a lot of the energy on this defense. I played with him in Florida, at the Saints, and now here. He gets everyone in the right mindset. I'll stop there. Dan Campbell and Alex Anzalone. I mean, Dan just continues to impress every time he gets in front of that podium. He can't not be himself. But Anzalone, I thought, was just very refreshing too. You know, he clearly speaks very well, articulates exactly what he wants. You can see why the team regard him as a leader on this team.
Yeah, and not to spoil too much of what I put in the Discord, but we found out why Teddy was likely not doing anything till this week, since he recently welcomed a second son. So congratulations to Teddy for having the baby. Hope everything goes well with that. But he's completely right. Teddy could have come in week 3 after the third preseason game, and then if we needed him week 1, probably would have been able to do something because, as he said, he's been around the block. He's done it with the Vikings. He's done it with the Saints. He's done it with the Dolphins. He's been in so many different systems. So having that connection with Dan, probably having Ben, who could easily sit down with him and explain things, having Goff there to do the same, probably would have hit the ground running anyway. And we're seeing it today with the taking young wide receivers and that, doing it after practice with Dylan Drummond, with JMO, with Avery Davis, who was just re-signed, Divine Sigbo, who needs some work in the passing game to getting up to speed on that. We're seeing that already. And then with AA as well, I can see him, obviously him being glad not to have a cover Gibbs in the flat anymore. I bet any linebacker will say that because Gibbs will absolutely break your ankles, as we saw with Bobby Orukariki. And then him playing in his more natural position with like side of a linebacker, I do have to agree. Like, we love AA to bits, but the Mike in our scheme is more like the sort of run defending guy, while the Will scrapes around and does a bit more of the coverage and the sort of outside zone stuff. So that does, in my opinion, fit AA a bit better. While someone like Campbell, who is the bit more stocky, big, run-stopping linebacker, does fit him a bit more. So I completely agree. And him having that connection to CJ probably is another underrated bit that probably brought him here, because having AA, who's been here for 2 years, knows the scheme, knows the staff. AG will probably tell him one thing, and he could probably get the proper lowdown from AA, the sort of stuff that AG won't tell him. So great to hear.
Yeah, I've not got much to add there.
All right, moving on to Jared Goff then to finish up August 8th. He said it's nice to go against a different team, and instead of RO versus RD, it's Lions versus Giants, and we're competing as a team. He said there's still room to grow. There's been good stuff. There's days we'd like back to, but right now it's good to be stressed and work through those things together. On Dylan Drummond, he said he's a good player. He does everything right, continually on time, fast, sudden, smart, good hands. He's a good player. On Sam Laporte, he said he's a second rounder for a reason. He has a good feel for space, understands the game well. He plays without thinking, but in a good way. He's not making mistakes twice, and getting him in space with ball in hand is a goal of this offense in general. He said on press negativity, he said playing with a chip on your shoulder always helps. He said I've got personal ones that fire me up, and he said I don't really care about the disrespect or respect out there. I'm just trying to win games for this team. On Teddy, he said I can't wait to get him in. Heard lots of good things about how supportive he is and what a good locker room guy he is. And on the aims for the week, he said we had 2 pre-snap penalties that I want to eliminate in prior practices. He said making plays further down the field, their defense just keeps it tight. So he was kind of looking forward to airing it out a bit. Moving on to the next day, and Dan was at the podium again. So obviously the Lions come out after a really good day for the offense, but an interesting day on defense. And he said this is great work for us. You get some unbelievably valuable evaluation from it. That's a really wordy thing to say. They hit us with some tempo offense yesterday. That was great. It tests you. So you want to see growth. You aren't looking for these massive jumps. You're just looking to take the little steps day after day. In terms of the players that impressed, he listed out Laporta, Gibbs, Branch, Starling, and Drummond once again making plays. On Starling specifically, he said he doesn't take shit. It's great to see because otherwise he'll never be a player in this league. On Antoine Green, he said he's inconsistent. He does some things and they really show up, and then they dip. But he's a young player, and the more he can lessen that, the better off he's going to be. On Anzalone, he said he can play all the positions. It's one of the reasons why he's a huge asset for us. But yes, he's more naturally a will, and that fits his skill set. He played so fast yesterday and took it up a notch, and it helps that Jack and Barnes turned it on next to him as well. On the gunner competition, he said we're still looking at people. We may need some more growth there, and we've got a couple of ideas. We may look at some other guys there too. We know that Jerry can do it, and that's someone that can be there, and maybe Will Harris as well. But we need growth from Starling and Green. These wide receivers, they've got to be able to take that gunner job. On the joint practices, he said they're comparable to the level that was shown against Indianapolis in the previous year in terms of competitiveness. He said the competition was great last year, and the intensity will go up again today in the second day. He said it's a tug of war. You just keep competing and see who gets the best of whom each day. On Chauncey at safety, he said he's a highly instinctive player, an excellent communicator, and you see the growth of him, and he's elevating Kirby as well. So Tracy's competing as well. He's very much in the competition. On Hutch, he said he's got more in the toolbox. He was already confident, but he's grown in that regard, and his game has elevated. He's got a counter, a bull rush, a spin move. He's violent. He can shed in the run game, sets the edge, has a high motor. He's taken it up a notch, and that's what you want to see. On Levi, he said he's growing, being able to just play football. This is the longest we've ever had him without injury, I feel like, in consecutive practices, and he's just playing football, getting used to it, and I see growth. He's getting better. He's in a good spot just to keep growing. On Barry's statue, which got revealed last week, no, it's going to get revealed before game one, but it was announced it was going to get revealed. He said he's the GOAT, man. And to be able to stand with him, talk with him, he's the most notable face of the franchise, and it's an honor. It's great what they're doing with the statue, and he's just such a humble guy, and the guys in the locker room can see that, and it's just great to have him around the team. On James Houston, he said in base they're trying to play him at the Sam, and Charles is playing at that position at such a high level, and he's locked in. For Houston, it's all a mental thing, and it's consistency for him as well. He makes some plays, but then he dips. We'll keep working on it with him, and he is working on it, but it's still early. We expect him to continue to grow. I think he's handling it well. We've had discussions with him about things that he needs to think about, and he's working on those, and he understands that he's in a competition. And he said, I am who I am. They are who they are. I don't have to preach high energy. I want us to focus on the details of what we do, the discipline, and then just let them go and do what they do. When you get the right guys in, you don't need to preach energy because they bring it themselves. It was a long press conference with a heck of a lot of detail in there on a lot of different players. So I'll stop there. Boys, Dan gave a lot more on this one in particular, on Levi, on Hutch, on Barry, on Houston, on himself, on Gardner Johnson, the joint practice in general, on Alex Anzalone, Antoine Green, the players who impressed in the previous day, and Laporta, Gibbs, Branch, Starling, and Drummond. I mean, it's a wealth of knowledge. And what did you take away from it?
I mean, I think the biggest takeaway out of all of this is he's not unhappy with anything in regards to the way this team's doing. Like, there's a lot of praise being sung out there and that. But then when it comes to players who are having struggles, he talks about Antoine Green, he talks about Houston, but is always caveated with these guys are getting better. They're facing hurdles. It's taking time to get over them, but they're getting to where they want to. So it's no one's slacking. Everybody's working hard. He's impressed with a lot of what he's seeing. And I don't know, I just feel like his overall demeanor recently has been a lot happier. In those first 2 years, it was tough for him in parts. In big parts, you could see him getting very emotional. You could see it was tough sometimes. And this year, he just looks a lot happier. When he's talking about these guys, he speaks with such passion. He speaks with, such energy. And it's like, I think these guys are vibing off it. I get the feeling that, like, no one's letting him down. Everyone's doing what he expects them to do, and they're all working really hard at it. And that's what I take away from all these, and it's great, really. That's what you want. You want everybody to be in this competitive environment and to carry on growing and that. So, Yeah, that's what I took away from it the most. He seems very happy at the minute.
Yeah, not much more to add except for Barry. If you're still in the UK and you're still available, you know how to find us. Come join us.
Oh, I was so prepared to just pop down to London and say hi. If he was like, yeah, for my UK fans, I'll be here. But unfortunately, never came to fruition.
It's the guy. You know what he was like with the ball in his hand. He's very elusive. You can never find him.
Oy. Right, let's move it on. Couple more here. Pre-game, and then we've got the post-game stuff as well. So Taylor Decker, he said whether it's a success in terms of the joint practices is down to each individual coach and what they wanted to see, but big picture stuff, how do you respond to playing a new team, the competitiveness, playing fast, IDing things. He said nothing's out there different for me, despite the governor of Michigan being out there watching practice. He said, if watching people affected me, I shouldn't have this job. He said the familiarity with the team is huge. The players are confident, but we can still be better. We're not going to stagnate. People rating us or not doesn't matter. We have to have a professional mindset. I remember him saying very much a similar thing actually in the spring as well. How like, I don't care whether we're meant to be bad or good. Let's go and do a job. He did say about the running back position, it's great to have a yin and yang. Not to say that David Montgomery doesn't have that big playability, but Gibbs has got the home run ability. It's a unique skill, and he's going to be a great player in this league. And on Colby Sawsdell, he said, we're throwing him into the fire a bit. That's a good thing. He's the personality type, I think, to rise to the challenge. There's good days and bad, of course, especially for a rookie. And how do you respond to that is key. Do you trust your training when you're just across from different guys? That's a huge thing. He'll be just fine. He's got quick feet, and he wants to get better. And just to finish up this day, Aleem McNeil came in. And what a guy Aleem is. He said, sharpening tools against a new opponent, someone different is great. There was a lot of violence being displayed. There was a lot we needed to clean up from yesterday. We were putting the pressure on. He said, I feel a lot better. I feel more free in terms of being a little bit of a lighter weight and having that rush ability. He said, it felt great going against another opponent, but it's just the beginning. And in terms of power, he said, I knew I hadn't lost any, and I can tell I'm quicker off the ball as well. On Broderick Martin, he said he's got his feet under him now. He understands what's going on, the why to what we're doing, and the technique is looking a lot better. And on Coach Scott, he said he's really helped the mental aspect of my game, the way he breaks it down so that we can fully grasp the concept and the why of what we're doing so that we can play faster. So Taylor Decker and Aleem McNeil, boys, I mean, Taylor is super consistent, not just as a pass blocker, but in his press conferences too, just preaching this professional mentality. And Aleem is talking big, but also just comes across like a super guy to have in that room. What did you make of it?
Oh, I'm still reading. I was waiting for Ant Decker.
Oh, so go on.
It's fine because I was taking the lead in the first part, and I was like, Ant talk first. But yeah, Decker. What else do we expect from the guy who's our longest tenured player? Absolute legend. He takes how far back he's been here. I remember when I was first getting into the game, it was the draft we took him, and I was so happy. And it's just so happy to see him go through all start kind of okay with cold round, make the all rookie team, then to go through what we all had to go through. And now he's sort of rising again, getting to the point where he's part of is the leader of an elite O-line. He's getting sort of plaudits, even though some places, not naming any offensive line ranking places, but they didn't have him in the top 20 left tackles in the league, which is a bit surprising. But absolute legend. It was great to see him as well. I know it's not mentioned in the press conference, but he's a good talk. And you saw it where him and his wife were on Danny's Off the Record podcast earlier this year. Such a good guy outside of work, inverted commas as well. So it's great for him to sort of take Colby in this wing, because that's what the impression I got with him talking about Colby's. I know Colby's going to be a right guard with some flexibility to play right tackle, but for Decker to sort of notice things about him as well really speaks to the sort of him being the dad of the group. And then obviously, Aleem, I won't say too much on because obviously we've got his number one fan on the podcast, but I can't wait to see him absolutely blow shit up when it comes to the regular season. I keep saying it. It was disrespectful, the rating Madden gave him. And I can't wait for him to turn around, spit on that, and then just trod all over it and just rampage. He is, to quote the Juggernaut from X-Men 3, The Last Stand, he's the Juggernaut bitch.
Oh, yeah. No, I love Aleem. Aleem's going to be great. Aleem, as year 3, when you get for these nose tackles, interior guys, that's when they really start to come of age. they sort of work out what they need. It's like him; he's worked out. He just needs to trim down a little bit, get that little extra yard, and you get that when you've had your years in the league. You figure what you're good at, what you're bad at, what you need to improve, and he's going to have a big year. But he mentions Broderick again there, and we got a bit of pushback after we did the Broderick video, and we said, "Oh, look, just how good this guy could be early." And every time I hear people talk about him, it's similar to a few of the other bits you hear in there. It's that there are issues for him to work on, but he's figuring them out very quickly, and he's putting in a lot of work to do so. And I don't think that his timeline is going to be as long as some people think it's going to be until he's in the league making plays and getting some significant reps in the interior of that line. And you kind of get excited for the prospect of them too. And then you add Levi in there as well as like this real young core of DTs who you're going to build around for years to come, hopefully, if Levi can stay healthy in regards to what they offer you. Broderick offers you that against the run, a big, firm anchor presence in the middle of that line. Aleem does as well, but at the same time, he's very athletic when it comes to getting the running backs and making those plays. And then Levi just collapses in the pocket. It's a nuanced, varied group of DTs, and you think this is pretty much going to be a good unit. But Aleem will be the guy who sees Broderick the most, and again, you hear about him every time, and it's like you can tell they're being super cautious. They're saying the pads are too high, this technique he needs to work on, etc., etc. But at the same time, you can't help but they can't help but admire him for the way he is going about his business. So, that room just excites me a lot. I know we've not a bona fide superstar in there, but we have very highly talented young guys who are ready to be a superstar. So I'm looking forward to that pairing immensely. I'm not going to lie. And as for Taylor, Taylor deserves this. Taylor deserves to be part of an elite O-line and play well. Because like I say, he has gone through a lot of crap here. And yeah, a lot of us have doubted him over the years as well. And he's proved everybody wrong. And, he deserves this success. Hopefully we do something big this year for him.
Moving on to the post-game pressers now. Dan Campbell started us off and he said it feels good to win. Guys came out, we cut it loose, simple game plan. We knew what we were facing and the young guys came out. The vets that were there did a great job too. On Maurice, he said he's got that ability, an outstanding return. He broke a few tackles and had some great blocks in front of him. It's what we preach all the time. On the defensive line performance, he said you could feel it. It's nice to see the Aquara brothers crush the can. All in all, we created enough to create some problems for them on offense. I'm hoping on tape review it will point to good fundamentals. On Jameson, he said he doesn't need that big box score. He doesn't need 10 catches for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. He said, I just wanted to get him lined up, see that urgency, the route definition and detail, and finish. For the most part, he did that. He was in it, he cut it loose. It's not perfect, and we've got stuff to clean up across the board, but I came out feeling positive about him. I wanted him with Nate, so that when Nate came out, he came out. And this is step 1 for him. With no preseason or camp last year, we'll get him ready for Jacksonville, and he'll play there too. You can tell how hyped he gets with his teammates, man. And it doesn't surprise me how hyped he got for Maurice Alexander when he finished off that big kick return, punt return even. He said about Nate, if I don't completely move the spreadsheet while I'm talking about it. Anyway, here we go. On Nate, he said, was getting hit for the first play interception, and it was a miscommunication on the snap, and I put that down to us as coaches. So there's something along the lines of they weren't going to snap it, but it got snapped anyway. So I wonder whether that was going to count as a negative against Pierce Baker before he got injured anyway, but never mind. And he said, on the second one, it's on both him and JMO getting squeezed. It just didn't work out, but there's more positive than negative generally. On Justin Jackson retiring, he said he was having a really good camp and he brought value to us, but he's in a good place and he felt like he just wanted to move on. There's no ill will there. He came to the crossroads and decided to turn the way that he did. He said, I wish him well. And if there's anything I can do for him, I will. On Chase Cota, he said, he's the quiet sleeper. He's done some really good things under the radar. He doesn't mess things up. And today, he makes those plays that really catch your eye. He can play all the positions at wide receiver and he produces. And now it's hard not to see it. It makes me want to give him more reps and bump him up to see what he can really do. On Martinez, he said he was really composed and handled things really well. We're hard on him in practice, but he commanded the huddle, was efficient, and ran the offense well. He didn't miss a beat. Unfortunately, he's going to get a little less next week because Teddy's coming in and he needs reps, so it's going to be Nate and Teddy. So that's a shame. Boys, I'll stop there before going on to the players post-game and Dan Campbell's conference just now, who someone's noted for me, which is really nice. Thank you. Dan, talking about the game afterwards, I mean, we've talked about this somewhat, but you spoke about Justin Jackson as well. What did you make of what Dan was talking about, especially the botched snap and being hit from behind by Nate? Because it does give context to that play.
It does, but at the same time, Dan isn't the kind of guy to come out and just publicly trash his players. So while he said that, I imagine in the locker room there was some words between, not harsh words, but sort of a conversation between him, bloody hell, why have I forgot the name of our bloody QB coach? Mark Brunel, and Sudfeld, kind of on it, sort of, what are you seeing there, that kind of thing, and then explaining where to get better. So while, yeah, might be on Pierce Baker for snapping it a bit early, that doesn't really explain the Matt Nelson stuff either, unless he was working off the snap, in which case surely you would know, since you're about 2 feet to his left, that the snap is happening. It explains a bit of it, but not fully, and I expect Sudfeld and Nelson to feel a bit bad when they were doing tape review Saturday or today. Everything else, agree with the JMO. He's come out today in his press conference, says he's treating this like a regular season. He just wants to get as many snaps as possible, and he's excited just to get out there. And obviously, he's saying he's flowing up his coach that POD talked to, so we know this guy's going to keep working. And then, yeah, it's a shame with Justin Jackson. I was very happy when we brought him back because he does have that thing. But as he said, if he's reached a crossroads and he's decided he wants to retire, at least he's retiring with his health, kind of thing. That's the big thing. Like, if he's going with his health, then you can't really knock him for that. So I'm happy.
I mean, Nelson did not get beaten off the snap. It wasn't like he was beaten quick off because something went wrong there. His technique is god-awful. The 2 times he was beaten, it was with his hands because he just hasn't picked up technique whatsoever. So I feel like that's covering for a bit. I agree with Ash. Dan doesn't publicly trash his players, which is admirable. But also then when Sudfeld's not taking no snaps in practice today, it's kind of like, so why did you say that the other day when he's not taking any snaps at all with the first team? You can't tell me Sudfeld had a net positive in that game. I get, again, he's going to say, look, he did a lot of the fundamental things right and all these little bits and bobs, and all we see is the throws, which, there is some degree to that. But where he should be getting evaluated now is his ability to make plays on a football field, not just do basic fundamentals, but to make basic throws, which he can't do. And he made basic decisions poorly, which he also can't do. So there was no net negative there. So, but again, I'm not, I don't really like the coach to come out and trash him. So I'm not too bothered about it. But by what he's saying, I also don't believe him either. So there is that. As for everything else, again, he just talks a lot of sense with everything. I think he's taken a lot out of this game. I think there was a lot to take out of this game, positive and stuff to work on. But this is what preseason is. What I like about Dan is he doesn't overreact. He doesn't say that was awful, we need to go back to the drawing board. It's just, this is a process. Everything from spring training to the end of preseason is a process. It's not about if you have a bad day, the world's going to end. It's if you have a bad day, it happens, and that's what training is. So, you come back and you learn. But I feel like overall, they've taken a lot more positives out of this week than negatives, and that's what you want. You're building up through preseason now. The season's coming in less than a month. You want to be on that upward ascendancy when you're getting ready to full game fitness. So, yeah, I'm reasonably confident overall in what he said.
Moving into the post-game press, as Chase Coter was up first, he said, it's the same game plan that was in joint practices we just went out and executed. And he said, I always get nervous before games, but after the first few snaps, it went away. And he referenced how nice it was to play with his cousin in the NFL scene for the first time, who is Brady Breeze, apparently. So Ash is now just typing along that. So Coter's dad played in the NFL, and his dad is Breeze's uncle.
Yeah.
Jack Campbell was up next, and he said, just cleaning up communication, some technique stuff and pad level. He said it's a surreal experience to play in the NFL. First one under his belt, he was a little nervous, but now he's ready to rock and roll and improve week in, week out. And he was asked about his welcome to the NFL moment by Jeremy, and and he said, versus Tom Kennedy earlier in the year. He said how precise the quarterback's throw was, back shoulder stuff, exactly where they want it. It makes it easy for the wide receiver to kind of do their business on you, and just having to deal with that level of precision was something that was really challenging for him. Julian Acquara next up. He said, it's great to play with my brother. He's my role model amongst other vets that he grew up watching. And he did say that he heard Dan Campbell reference his own consistency. And he said, I just need to out there and do my job, stay violent, be consistent, work on my pad level, and I need to do this again next week and get even better. And Maurice Alexander was up next. He was asked a couple of questions, but most of them were pretty inconsequential, I think, but he just gave the credit to his 10 other guys on that play who he said made it easy for him on that. And then to finish it off, Dan Campbell today said he appreciated the crowd and noted that the Giants had to go silent count in the game, although maybe they were just repping doing that anyway. Mo Ibrahim, he said he won't be back this week in practice after the in-game injury. On Teddy, he said he'll see some snaps in practice today and will make a decision on if he plays in the preseason game at the end of the week. And on the new deal for Khalif Raymond, he said he's a self-made man. It's a credit to him. He embodies what we're all about. He's one of our guys. So, thoughts, boys, on the post-game pressers and Dan Campbell just now today?
I mean, again, so Julian, first off, he's absolutely right. He needs to be more consistent. I mean, I loved the game the other day. I hold my hand up, he's had a good one, but his issue has always been his consistency. If he comes out and has a dud against the Jags now, then I'm back to cutting him. You've got to, build on this. You need to be ready for the season. You need to be ready to contribute. And you know what? We all want to see them two together playing. You want to see Julian and Romeo on each edge, coming in, crushing the can, so to speak. And you want that depth on your team. So it's good that he knows where he's at. He's healthy for now, which is good. He's playing well, which is good. Can he combine them both for the rest of it? We will see. But hopefully he can. For Coulter, I was just really glad for him. He looked like he enjoyed himself in that. I think, the pressure's off a bit now. Obviously, he's still got a lot of work to do, but the fact that he's gone out there and done it, and he knows he can do it, that'll alleviate a lot of stress. He'll get some more targets now. We'll see how he does next week. And then, it's outside of that, it's just been good. The players looked happy, and again, it's just the theme of this game. I think a lot of satisfaction, a lot of realization there's still a lot of work to do, but overall, they had a really good week.
Yeah, completely agree. It's interesting to hear, sort of to get to peek behind the curtain with the welcome to the NFL moment for Jack Campbell. It does kind of make sense. I know we've harped on this a lot, but him having the perfect RAS doesn't really show in tapes. So someone like a precise route runner like Kennedy is the kind of person to sort of put him in stitches kind of thing. But it's great to see, here that he's learned from that and he's going to improve in coverage because he's really good in coverage Friday night. Really impressed by him. Julian, great for him to play with his brother. Showed out here, but as you say, we keep saying it's the consistency now. If he shows it next week and the week after, and he does some stuff on special teams, maybe, but he's really got to beat out Houston to make it for this roster, as we said, because our front six in terms of the defensive ends are pretty much set with Hutch, Charles Harris, Pascal Kamish, and then Romeo's, we've got 5 there. And then Houston is the 6th. He's really got to make the argument to keep him over someone like Anthony Pittman or Savion Smith, someone who does stuff on special teams. That's really where he's got to work. And then just Dan today, I was on the put those things I was listening. Again, great talk, great to hear from him. The Leaf, you can almost hear him getting a bit emotional talking about Leaf. He is really one of those guys that proves what this regime is about, as he says. And then obviously him thanking the crowd because it's weird. Well, weird in terms of, in a good way, that we were so good that the Giants had to go to a silent count. This is something that you expect when we play in Lambeau, we have to go to a silent count during the regular season. For it to happen to the Giants during week 1 of the preseason, just phenomenal. And so as he said, hats off to the crowd, and hopefully continue this week against the Jags, because they're going to be another good test for us. I know we beat them last year like we did the Giants, but they'll offer something different with T-Law and his big arm. Calvin Ridley, who's a wide receiver 1 with chip on his shoulder, something to prove after he was the first casualty in the NFL gambling thing, and now obviously we've got JMO. And so it's going to be a good test again for us, and him to go up against Doug Peterson, someone who's won a Super Bowl, is respected around the NFL. Dan to sort of match minds against him and play that chess match is going to be great to see.
Yeah, so that is it for the roundup for the presses. We did have one question come in, and if you guys have any other questions, please don't forget to throw them at us now before we wrap up, because we've been going for a while here. Mike the Marine asking a question about the wide receivers because of how good some of the depth guys have been doing. He said, would you mind keeping wide receivers Cota and Drummond on the roster along with St. Brown, Leaf, Reynolds and JMO? I mean, JMO doesn't have to be a decision until week 8, so that decision is somewhat deferred, but that would mean that Mike is leaving out people like Marvin, like Denzel Mims, Maurice Alexander, Antoine Green. They're all not making it because he wants Cota and Drummond to get in. What do you think, boys?
I mean, Mims needs to see the field. Yeah. I'm not taking Mims unless he sees the field extensively in these last 2 games. He's proven nothing here. You know, Antoine Green's above him, Cota's above him, Drummond's above him. At the moment, Mims is right at the very bottom. You know, he's got to work his way from like wide receiver 9 or wherever we're at this moment in time. It depends. I need to see more at this moment in time because I'm not willing to cut Antoine Green at all. I want him on the roster, but at the same time, if Drummond and Cota both earn a spot on there, I don't really want to lose them either. But you've got to make room for Marvin. You've got to have a vet in the room, like a good high-level vet in the room, which Marvin is, and we just don't have in anybody else at all. So maybe it's going to be the case, if JMO's not here for 6 weeks, you will take Marvin, you will take 2 of those 3 in Green, Cota and Drummond as well, and you can hopefully stash the other one and then, you know, work with them guys for the first 6 weeks. But if Cota and Drummond earn it, yeah, take them. Undrafted free agents have come onto this team and made themselves big parts. You can't be scared to do that, especially if guys on the main team are not doing it. But, you know, this won't matter when we trade for Mike Evans, you know, so, you know, hypothetical.
I mean, since you just kind of brought it up, sorry to break your heart, and after our discussion earlier, but Zeke has just signed for the Patriots. So there's your dream RB3 gone. He's gone to another team, unfortunately.
I've not said a word about Zeke.
No, he's just he's just pulling your leg because of what he said earlier, and our reaction was one of disgust. So he's
yeah. He's gone where?
Patriots.
6 hang on.
Up to 6 mil was the wording.
Mil, yeah.
Quirky Zerky just said on the wide receivers, he thinks Amon-Ra, Brown, Khalif, JMO, Reynolds, and Marvin are the safe 5. Of course, as I said before, JMO's being deferred, so it depends whether you want to keep 5 or 6. But there's a safe 4 in there at least on the 53 cut down day. So he's postulating that it's a battle for maybe 1 or 2 spots between Cota, Mims, Drummond, and Green. And I think you've got to throw Maurice in there because of that return and that upside he does bring. But I would say he's the last of those people for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was also a question about running back 3. I mean, we've just got so many of them right now. I really do think that Reynolds is entrenched there because he was before the injury. And so you've kind of got to unseat him. And I don't see anyone really doing that. Do you, boys?
I mean, you know what? The way I'm feeling right now about that is I just take 2 running backs and take an extra receiver. You know, I don't really want to cut any of these receivers at the minute. So if there's a place where you can cut otherwise, because I'm going extra on DTs as well. So I don't know. This is where Kabinda comes in, you know, and everyone's forgotten about Jason, but if you can have a guy who can be a receiver of sorts and can run the ball in the back and work out the backfield. Because, I mean, if Gibbs and Monty get their recommended workloads, you only need a Kabinda type after them to sort of come in and do cleanup reps and stuff like that. So that's where he gets a shot in. And then you sort of work out a bit of the issue at receiver as well. So it's tough. But it's whoever does well out, whoever the 2 or 3 best guys are in preseason out of the big group of them goes. I think it's as simple as that. And at the minute, they say it's between Mims, Green, Drummond, Cotter, all these guys fighting for a few spots. But I don't know. Maybe you do need to see Marvin a bit. Maybe you do need to put some of those in. I mean, I guess Josh Reynolds is dead to the world now. I mean, was Reynolds in that initial group?
Yes, he was. Yeah.
I mean, maybe you're going to have to put some of these guys in. And maybe we know what Reynolds can do, but
I don't see him.
I don't know. I
don't
don't feel like he deserves to be a lock who doesn't deserve to have to go through preseason. I feel like he's not that secure on the roster that he gets a free pass at this.
No, I agree. But I think he's having a quietly solid camp.
But the trouble is, if Coulter and Drummond both ball out, and one of Mims or Green does as well, and you've got 3 very talented guys who are fighting for that roster spot there, and then you've kind of got Reynolds who's been sat there doing nothing and isn't a lock on the road, then you've got a problem because you're potentially sending away a guy who will be really good on your roster, especially at the depth positions, and you're kind of putting one through who's meh. And I don't know. It's tough. I think if this carries on, you need to see some of these fringe guys come in for 3 and sort of, like, say, right, we'll just remind you why these guys are not at our level.
I mean, for me, on the wide receivers, if Coulter, Drummond, or Green don't make it, I mean, 2 of them were undrafted, and 1 of them might have gone undrafted if we didn't pick him up. So the only people I think that are going to pick these guys up are either the Giants or the Jags because they see what they like in joint practices. But I don't see the rest of the league picking these guys up because if they wanted to, they could have done that in the draft.
But the thing is now, the league is also cottoning on to the fact that Brad Holmes is very good at this. 2 years ago, we have never been known as a team that can find small talent from these guys and get them into the team. If Coulter balls out all preseason and we cut him, it's not going to be like, oh, the Lions are just cutting some bum, let him to get to the practice squad. It's like, hang on, the Lions, they're very good with these guys. And if they're playing well and, they don't really want to let them go, I don't think a lot of them will make it through waivers. It's all about the expectations to your team. People know that Brad's smart and people know this coaching staff is good. So you can't go by that. And these young receivers, if they hit, you're getting them on good deals. They're good depth pieces for your team. You're not spending millions on some of these other guys who maybe give you sort of similar production either. We've got depth pieces at receiver. You've got Khalif on there. You've got Marvin on there. You don't need so many depth guys if you're going to get some really talented youngsters and you're going to get your star receiver back after 6 weeks. I don't think it can be a cut and dry issue.
Any thoughts, Sash?
Yeah, so I was sort of latched onto sort of RB3 things. I know in Dan's pressing, I was looking for the quote. I know obviously we've got Gibbs and we've got Montes tied in, and then it's obviously the issue of RB3, but they're all injured. He says it's starting at special teams. So I think that really gives Craig and Jamar a leg up right now, even though they're injured, because they're used to how fit plays. So Craig's been kick returner last year in preseason. Jamar's been working on his special teams. That's what supposedly was holding him back for the first 2 years. He's been working on that. I know that Snell and Exigbo have both played special teams in other systems, but for me right now, Jamar and Craig offer the best of sort of being able to play at that RB3 spot and actually take snaps. Because like Jamar's done it with Pittsburgh in his rookie season. Craig, we've seen what he did the past couple of seasons as like the backup RB3. It's tough, like sort of balance, as we say, the balance between being able to play and do stuff and offense and also do the special teams. And it will have, as we keep saying, we have to cut good players. That's why Coates and Drummond to sort of go into sort of wide 5-6. I think they do have a chance of making the roster if they can shout in special teams. So Kota is on the coverage units. He was on kick and punt coverage units, graded averagely. Drummond, I know, took one kick and then was on the coverage units as well. I don't see Marv. Like, I know he's a veteran, he's got the back stuff. He doesn't really do that much on special teams. Nor does, I don't think Mims has done that much either. So I think special teams is going to be the thing that really allows the UDFAs to make their claims. So I could see Kota and Drummond being sort of 5 and 6 while JMO's out. And then when JMO comes back, it might be which one did more for me on special teams and offense. They're the ones that then go to the practice squad unless they absolutely bowl out. It's a hard decision and someone like Chicago or Minnesota signs them up because, let's be honest, they don't really have wide receivers. Like Chicago has DJ Moore, did really well in preseason, but Claypool hasn't really hit the heights of his rookie season, and Mooney's a good wide receiver too. That's it. They need someone else. Minnesota have Justin Jefferson, best receiver in the league, and that Justin Addison, who they've drafted, good receiver at Pitt, didn't so much at USC. They need someone else. So long story short, special teams. It comes out to special teams. As much as I probably hates to hear it because we want as many players that can play in offense and defense, it's going to be special teams that's going to be the deciding factor, and it's really a leg up for Dakota, for Drummond, and for Craig and Jamar right now.
No, I don't disagree. That's what you get from those guys out there. But I've seen enough from Coker and Drummond to know they can take snaps in this team if they carry on. So I've no issue with that at all.
One very quick question for Mike the Marine, and then we'll get out of here, at least on the recorded segment of the show. He says, if Glasgow wins the right guard spot, can Big V be considered tackle 3?
I mean, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you keep him this year, for sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, if Varte does win it, then you've got good depth. You can kick Nelson off the team, which is fine by me. So, I'm not sure. They've not really said much about the right guard yet, but there's a lot of options. And there's a long way to go yet, but it could happen, yeah.
Yeah, so I know it was Stefan Prada that tried one their post training practice recaps. They were discussing Big V as sort of a tackle option. That might be, if let's say if Saul or Decker goes down, that might be our best way to get the best 5 out there. Is that like Big V out to tackle, then put Graham in as the right guard. So I could definitely see it, but into like what the team usually wants to know T3 is the 6th lineman thing, and unfortunately Nelson in the past couple of years has shown enough to do that. So unless someone, fingers crossed it's Eze, because he's getting good reviews in camp, shows out the ability to do that sort of 6-0 lineman role and beats Nelson out of that for that role, it's unfortunately going to be Nelson just because of the familiarity. That's what this team wants. They don't want to take a risk in this year where we've got high expectations on us. If it's between someone's got a lot of upside and could potentially do great at the role, but also has the range of possibilities where they're absolutely dog, and then they have someone who they know what it is, if they know they can get consistent like 5 out of 10 out of them, they're unfortunately going to go for the 5 out of 10 because they know what they've got. And then when it comes to a situation where they need to use them, they know what they're going to get out of them. They can sort of trust them to get that and not much more else and not much more less. So
yeah,
I'd want it to happen, but
see, tackle 3 needs to start getting treated like QB2. It's critical to your team. The drop off when Sewell or Decker is injured is massive and very detrimental to this team. And you've kind of got to have a better option there. I just pray to God the things about the Jets cutting Becton are true. Get him here faster than anything.
Oh yeah,
I put him in on this team. Yeah,
I'd happily trade a conditional day 3 pick for him.
Yeah, I will get him here straight away and put him in, and then get rid. But the drop off is too huge. You've got to put some good. We miss Crosby so badly. The world was a much better place when Terrell Crosby was on this team because he had that ability. fifth round, swing tackle, can cover both sides for you, can play to the level of a starter for extended absence if need be. You know, it's we're just desperate for that. And that is a lovely world to live in when you have a guy like him.
All right, that is going to do it for the recorded section of the show. If you're on YouTube or Twitch, stick with us while we go through the end of the read here on the audio pod. Next show on the main podcast, Monday, August 21st, is training camp week 4 in review, second week of joint practices. That one's going to be with the Jags, which starts, I think, tomorrow. Preseason game 2 in review as well, so that is on Saturday, and we are going to do another live reaction show, so I think you'll see me and Ash there, and Ant might pop in too. I don't know, we'll see what happens, but we will be going live at 1:45, 12:45 p.m. Eastern Time or 5:45 p.m. UK time, so we'll see you there for the Jags game. You can watch us do our thing with the commentary. You can turn off the TV rubbish, because it's not there. I mean, if you want to listen to Dan Miller, all good, but we do a good job of it as well. And also, Ant, you've got college podcast tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm working Wednesday and Thursday, so we're moving it up to tomorrow. It'll be the second part of our preview into the American. Some good teams. The reigning champions, Tulane, are on there tomorrow, a few others. It's a very interesting conference this year. Some good deep sleep players if you like doing draft early. So, yeah, come check us out for that. And then we're really going to start digging into players and predictions and stuff for the season with that just around the corner. So, yeah, come join us tomorrow if you can.
Are you going to react to the AP poll that came out today, or is that going to save for the predictions?
We were going to do it the other week, but it just took too long. Maybe it depends how long, but they will be on there. We will do the AP top 25. It's always good fun. So I have a lot to disagree with on there.
Just going to finish with a one-sentence review from Mike the Marine on Twitch. He says, best play-by-play and colour guys from Roar of the Lions UK. Appreciate that.
We really do.
That's great. That's really cool. Anyway, you can follow us on our socials, Roar of the Lions UK, on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and join the Facebook group for worldwide fans, Detroit Lions fans UK, One Pride Worldwide. The website is going to start up real soon with content about the upcoming season. It's rotluk.com. Just remains for me to thank my co-hosts, Anthony Fitzpatrick and Ashley Soden. I'm Matthew Turner, and we're 1-0 in the preseason, baby. Long may it continue. Let's go, Lions. One Pride.
One Pride.
Recording stopped.
Right, I'm going to take a quick 2-second break.
1, 2.
So,
welcome back, Matt.
Couple of questions for you while you're away. Det Fanman says, you guys like Julian for Becton straight up. There was also RJ Graham asking, will Ibrahim make the roster? And Giovanni Lyons asks, what's your favourite meal to cook and what's your favourite meal to eat? I'll see you in a sec.
To answer the first one first, so Julian for Becton straight up. The Jets aren't going to take that. Like, as much as I hate to admit it, they're very deep at the edge room, like we are. Like, when a certain favourite player of mine from last year is on their second string and he's balling out, it just shows you. Like, you look at their depth chart at edge rusher, it's very deep. They're not going to want Julian. Julian is an outside linebacker kind of guy. He doesn't fit their scheme anyway. They're like us. They run off even front, but they're an over scheme, so they do more sort of traditional free linebacker looks. Julian doesn't do that. He's more likely to go to Jacksonville or Carolina if the team's going to trade for him that we play, because they both now play 3-4, so he fits their schemes better. So I know Jags are in the market for another edge rusher because Josh Allen hasn't really worked out for them. Walker, who they took last year. Yeah, let's see how year 2 goes for him. And then Carolina, they're moving to a 3-4 with their new defensive coordinator. No, they're looking for pieces because I've got a friend who is a Panthers fan, and I know that he's a bit iffy about their depth. So maybe they take him. Maybe we can offer Craig Reynolds and Julian Aquara for Jeremy Chin.
You're trying to fleece them there, Ash. I'm not sure they'd accept that. I mean, I don't know. When I heard that, Julian for Becton, I'm like, I kind of don't want to let Julian go for that. But at the same time, it's like, Yeah,
Hang on.
it depends, because if he's going to be edge 7 here and I'm going to get tackle 3 out of him and a high level one, then it's like, of course I would. I just don't think the Jets would do that trade. Even if they were desperate edge, I don't think they would do that trade. But
so
I would certainly look at potential pieces I could add round with the edge room. If you can get another player out of it, especially another offensive lineman, then fine.
So to go through the Jets edge room, they've got Carl Lawson and John Franklin Myers as their ones. At the twos, it's JJ2 and then Michael Clemens, who's actually decent. Their third string is Will McDonald, who obviously they took in the first round this year, and Bryce Huff, who's really underrated. Then they've got Ifati Ndigbo, Descending Angza. There's another guy that I can't see anything, but they're like they're like us, they're very deep at the edge. So they are running back. Like they've got the site I'm looking at. It's got our favorite Izzy A listed as their 4 in the running back room.
Yeah. So I think the depth does that there. Will Mo make the team? No, he'll make the practice squad. I think that's where we're at now, because I think he's going to miss multiple weeks. He's not going to have enough time to make his imprint on this team. I think that's the only problem. So.
Jeremy has him missing practice today with it's listed as a lower body injury.
Yeah, and Dan says it's going to be a little while yet. So I think he's just going to miss too much to be able to stake his claim for running back 3, but I think they absolutely will keep him around. And I don't think anyone will nick him, because people will be too concerned with the injury history. So we've kind of got that in our favour there. So I don't think he will. As for, what was it, favourite thing to cook, favourite thing to eat? I mean, cook, I will just make a very nice pasta-based dish, really. I do all sorts of things with pasta. Get myself some nice fresh tomatoes in, maybe some sort of carbonara-based thing. I'll just make that and eat that for days. So that is what I make. My favorite thing to eat, God, I love too much.
You're like,
I just love food. It depends what mood I'm in, but I will just pretty much eat anything. So
for me,
I'm a sweet guy. I will eat tiramisu. I will eat tiramisu wherever I am. Yeah. Every time I go to an Italian, I will eat tiramisu. It's one of my favorite things in this world.
I have to disagree, and I had to bite in the pre-show because you guys were discussing. I actually don't like coffee, so tiramisu and all that's not for me. Like, I'm apple crumble. Best dessert I've ever had. Best dessert I've ever had, and it's on the back of a Toby Carvery. So Toby Carvery used to do the ice cream sundaes. That honeycomb dream sundae that they used to do. Oh my God, I used to demolish like 2 of those every single time I went to Toby Carvery when I was younger. Like, I was a glutton for that stuff. Like, it was vanilla ice cream, chocolate sauce, caramel sauce, and it had crunchy in it. It was just
That does actually sound pretty good. A good sundae is nice, I'm not gonna lie. But you gotta do it properly. You got tons of shit in it.
My parents came round and we cooked them a roast. Not last weekend, but the weekend before, and my mum brought around homemade pavlova, and it was unbelievable. The meringue was so light in the middle and so nice and crispy on the outside. It was heaven. But Sarah, my girlfriend, has started making what is it? It's a peach and prosecco fresh cream sandwich cake.
Oh, like a Bellini kind of thing.
It's such a southern thing.
It's a Bellini cake, yeah. That's
such a southern thing. That is putting prosecco in your cakes. You can tell that you're from south of the border, the invisible border.
I would still probably eat it.
I would still probably eat it. Absolutely. This is making me hungry. Someone put in Will Hooker not make the team with Teddy taking a spot. He'll get redshirted, and rightly so.
Yeah, on NFI, he doesn't count against the 53. So
no, Hooker will do well on a red shirt. A year to learn the scheme away from Heupel's spread offense stuff. This is much more complicated. It's going to take longer to learn. Let his knee heal properly, and then next year when Teddy's deal's up, you've got your backup quarterback, potentially, depending on what goes on this year. So no, he won't be on the roster because we don't need him to be on the roster, in my opinion.
On my favourite meal, I love making my homemade bolognese. It's basic. It doesn't have any veg in it whatsoever. It's just beef mince, tomato puree, onion, garlic, and then lots of herbs. And sometimes I'll put in some Guinness cooking sauce because that goes really nicely with it. Sometimes before I've finished browning the meat off, I'll pour some cheap port in there because that makes it really nice and rich. But none of this carrots or peas or stuff that people like to put in their bolognese, and it's like you're ruining the texture and you're ruining the taste. What you doing to me?
And you're also offending the entire nation of Italy by doing that.
Yes,
exactly. You saying that, I had the infamous clip of Gino De Campo ringing through my ears.
Yeah. That fan man says Guinness cooking sauce. Tell me more. I mean, it's a kind of like it's quite gloopy, quite thick, and I think it's meant to be for steak or some sort of beefy sort of thing. But you can put it in any beef dish. It's really nice.
Putting Guinness in anything is amazing. Like Guinness cake.
But this is concentrated
tremendous.
Guinness cooking sauce.
Yeah, no. I imagine, but putting Guinness in anything, it's like when the show's done, I've got a bag. Guinness do their own range of crisps. The Guinness crisps are fantastic. And, you just get them in these big bags and I'll just destroy it all in one go. I'd especially save them for this evening. So, I will have Guinness in most things. Most preferably in pint form, but you put it in food and it becomes a wonderful thing. Guinness does as well. And you have all the new brands of it now as well, which is good. Did you try the coffee one? It's beaut. Ash won't because he doesn't like coffee, but
I was about to say about the coffee.
The coffee version, the Guinness coffee is absolutely mwah. And the gold version and just pretty much every version of Guinness. It's so nice to live somewhere where it's only an hour flight to Belfast to go and get hammered there on the real stuff.
That's what I'm hoping to do next year when my team comes over for the
Dublin
for International. Yeah.
Won't be able to move around all them Georgia Tech fans.
Exactly.
Mike the Marine asks whether you've ever had Mexican fried ice cream.
No, yes, I know. I have.
Ooh.
There's a place up here that does it. Oh yeah, that's fried ice cream is beautiful, but the Mexican stuff, yeah. I don't know what it's like over there, but mine had a real kick to it. But in ice cream form, it's really bearable. Like chili and ice cream is just like a really good thing in general. We had it before I had that, but oh yeah, Mexican stuff's mint.
Right, I need to shoot. So, anything you guys want to just chat about quickly before I head off?
No, I mean we could. In fact, no. Let's go around the room. How did your football team do this weekend? Just say the score.
For God's sake, no. No.
And on that horrible note, without talking about my team or Ash's team, how did your team do?
They won 4-2.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, wasn't the goal? It wasn't. We weren't the highest scoring team in our 3 fixtures at the weekend. One team got 5. So,
who were you playing?
You'll never have heard of them. You'll just laugh. So
I would have heard of them. I played in every tier of football in Football Manager down to level like 11. I probably have heard of them.
And you played in net against Arsenal at the weekend, so you let a few win, didn't you?
And to be fair, like I've watched the highlights, it was on the defense. Like as much as I love Forest as my second team, and the amount of centre backs have signed, they need to sort out the defense. I know Cooper likes his sort of free at the back system.
I love it. But there was a day and age when folks we all used to call it defense. That's what it is over here. It's defense, and you've made us all into this monster now where we say defense.
Yeah.
And it used to be defense. We played filed for your.
So apparently, by the way, the Man United Wolves game that was happening while we were away, there was a VAR review for a penalty to Wolves, which would have equalised the game in the 96th minute, with Onana apparently missing a header and completely clattering into the attacker, and VAR decided no penalty, which is like, what?
Yep.
Yeah, if that was Man United, it would have been given. It wouldn't have even gone to VAR. It would have just been given.
You're telling me there was an instance 2 years ago when we played them at Villa Park. Fernandes stood on Conte's foot and got a penalty.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway,
And by the way, Grandize, the District 9 Avatar sucks.
Avatar sucks. Yeah. But anyway. Right. I need to go. So,
All
folks, it's been great to see you. We'll see you tomorrow for College Show. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.